Welcome to the Blackout Show, presented by the Guillen Grid, a show about the Chicago White Sox baseball, the good, the bad, the ugly. We'll debate what's working and what's not on the south side of Chicago. It's old school versus new school baseball. And most importantly, we're keeping all the receipts.
Yo, what is up, everybody? It's Gonzo here, and joining me is Ozzie and Jr., Justin, and our good friend BeefLoaf from Section 108 and the 108 Pod. Boys, we are 2 outs away from a series win. One of our favorite batters just went down, and that is our boy Yoan Moncada. Beef, I'm going to toss it to you. Did Moncada play his last game as a White Sox?
You know, I think he probably did, Chris. And guys, thanks for having me on. With regards to Moncada, though, and I have the same thing with Eloy. They've been here a long time, and emotionally, I have nothing kind of with if they get hurt or if they play. I'm happy if they play good, but I just my feelings don't get hurt anymore now if they go down or anything. And I still care about them, Justin, but it's been so many times. I'm beaten down. I can't worry about it anymore. So I think you're right. I think he's probably not going to be playing again. I mean, it says 3 to 6 months. You know, last time Yoan got hurt, he did actually come back on the short end of the schedule. Yeah. So maybe, but I kind of doubt it.
It's over with, Beef. It's done. I think my favorite player in franchise history, no matter how lousy you think he is, you people, you got your wish. He's off the White Sox. Moncada might have played his last game in a White Sox uniform, and this is the way my boy went down in a heap at first base in Cleveland, bro. Wow. You people won. You won. Ken W.O., King Mac, Mike North, all you people, y'all won. Y'all had it. Y'all had y'all day. Good. Don't say nothing to Justin Lee. Don't bring up Jay Targaryen. Nothing. You got it. You win. I've been the knee. I'm done. Leave me alone.
For me personally, obviously everybody knows the relationship that we have with Moncada. So he's very upset. I texted with him, and he's disappointed. And people can say this is if it's selfish or not. When guys go into a season where that's a contract year, guys need to make money, okay? Because this is how they feed their families. By him not being able to play, he's basically knows that his option's not going to be picked up at all. So he's looking at potentially getting a big league invite to a team. It's career changing. You can say that he could have put up the numbers beforehand, but for any player, you always want to have the chance of, if you're going to suck, let me suck healthy. You ask any guy, he's like, let me suck healthy because I can at least show that's playing. The fact that it's the same injury in the same location that he had prior, it's concerning because it means that the muscle at this point is affected. So that situation then becomes, okay, is this going to be something naggy? From Moncada's standpoint, also, you have a lot of money. If your mind is not in the game and there is any doubts, you have a long recovery. So he needs to make sure that his mind is in the right place. If he ever wants to play baseball ever again, because you can say F this and go home and pack it in. So there's a lot of things happening there. The part where I won't write off Moncada coming back to the White Sox at all is because of this. This is where the Jake Burger trade looks even that much worse, okay? There's nobody right now in the White Sox farm system today, including Gonzalez, Brian Ramos.
Your boy.
Including him, that I can say this guy is the future third baseman of the Chicago White Sox, who is going to put better numbers at 14.4, great defense WAR, meaning an average player. There's no replacement for him. There's not someone that we're waiting for. They're like Vaughn was with Abreu. So when you look at the list of guys that are free agents, the list is not a great one. So if in the future, Moncada and then break a deal because you've constructed the team offensively different, where now Moncada becomes a role player, where you're just there for his defense. And I know Chris Getz likes that Moncada type of player, of athletic. Maybe I can see that down the road in the future. But I know that he's definitely not coming back with the $25 million option that he had. And it's unfortunate because it's a guy that got paid early. And, fans were expecting him to be a superstar, never made an all-star game. And he was just an average player, a guy that we were expecting a lot more. And unfortunately, the injury happened and we won't get to see what this season would have been, which I thought was going to be a really good one.
Yeah,
Beef, you recognize that comment?
I do. I do recognize that comment. Yes, sir. Yeah. That's a shirt I'm donning. Wave Sucks shirt. We have these from the 108 store. If you want to go grab one, anybody out there.
What I was gonna say with Moncada is he's always a guy, unlike some of the other core players from Hans' core, that he battled through his injuries, and more often than not, it did tend to hurt him with his play on the field. But I can respect him trying to battle through it, unlike some of the other guys that we would see, like Eloy, go down with a bruise and just, sit on the bench for games on end. But what you said, Junior, most was, he had to do it. He couldn't, pass this up and go sit down, and especially on a contract year. So I don't blame him at all. And for me, it's just so unfortunate. But I do want to emphasize, Junior, what you said with Kenny's getaway gift to our White Sox fan base in trading Berger, because that's a guy who probably would have outproduced Moncada at third base as far as offensively goes. Defensively, that's a whole different story. But you did mention my boy Ramos. And this is a kid that they sent back. I thought maybe they were going to start him in AAA to begin the year, but they sent him down to AA with a lot of the guys that they have high hopes for with their whole Project Birmingham coming up. But for me, it was kind of like an eyebrow raise for me, because this is the year of 2024. You want to see these young kids come up, sooner than often. And I think that they're just, going to hold us back a little bit. Going forward here with their offensive guys. And we're going to take a look at that coming up here shortly. But it's a guy in Ramos. He has, in his prospect career, you've been seeing him getting better with the glove there at third base over the last 2 springs. And definitely with his approach at the plate, this guy's been progressing as well. Definitely, though, like what you're saying, Junior, he was not that skill level in his young prospect career that Moncada was, being the number 1 prospect in his game and totally lighting up the minors. But we'll see what happens at the big league level. Do you guys have anything else you want to wrap up on Moncada at all?
Yeah, I got 2 quick things. One, I remember all the way back in the beginning of the rebuild when Yoan Moncada came up. And when he came up, I was at his first game at home, and there was standing ovations. And when he came to the plate, watching his first plate appearance, it was like, oh, here's a guy that actually knows the strike zone. Here's a guy that looks like a real hitter. And we only had Jose Abreu at that time, kind of. Like, there weren't a lot of guys that were able to do that sort of thing. And so it was exciting when he came up. And the Sox did him wrong. His best year was 2019. He was a stud in 2019. They had Tim Anderson winning the batting title, and they put nothing around those guys. They didn't even bother to what if these young guys come up and play well, and then they didn't do shit around them. So upsetting that they didn't take advantage of that.
Beef, I know that you're a historic guy, and you really have your head on a swivel when it comes to players. So something that Ozzie's never talked about, when Ozzie came in 2004, okay, they had Joe Creedy. Their projections was a part of the 3-head monster. They had Joe Creedy as one of the guys that was going to be this big offensive guy. And within the first 3 months, he was like, I like Joe Creedy, but he's not my third hitter or my fourth hitter, or even in the top 4. Like, I like him 6 or 7. So I like the fact that you said that they didn't never build around them. I feel like he could have been a guy because of what he brought defensively that you could have kind of like saved and had him there from a glove standpoint and hit him like 7 or 8. And then that team becomes that much scary, because even though he was a number 1 prospect, I never really saw him as the number 3, 4, 5 hitter. And I think Boston knew that. That's why they traded him and kept freaking Devers, who looks nothing like Moncada in a uniform. But I agree with that. I feel like that was like a lack of development and surrounding him in the right success, a position to succeed. And people don't realize that sometimes how they play you and where they hate you can affect your career completely.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, OJ, when I first joined the Blackout with you guys, I told you about Moncada. I see a lot of my guy Jose Vidro in Moncada, old Expos player, old Mariners player. Like, we could very well see the best of Yoan Moncada at the age of 30, 32, considering the fact that he's an on-base guy. He's not really explosive outside of the batter's box. Good enough athlete. He can put up a 25 home run season at his older age, because you don't really look for the athletic properties of his game. He's still going to be a good glove. He's going to give you a little bit of pop. But as of right now, I don't think that there's a future with the Chicago White Sox and Yoan Moncada. That's just me on the outside looking in. I don't know any details, but that's just what I'm looking at now. Like, this type of stuff never really ends on a high note. You never really see a second rebirth of a player. Look at Derrick Rose for the Bulls, and Moncada never really propelled, I should say, the Bulls to what Derrick Rose propelled them to. I should say Moncada with the Sox. I'm getting a little tongue-tied. You know what, Gonzo? I didn't have enough coffee, so instead of the coffee grounds, let's just cue up the Grifo grounds.
I don't have a problem making decisions. I don't have a problem making a call on a pitcher. I don't have a problem making a call on whatever our team needs at this particular moment.
Junior, I love that soundbite. He has no problem making no decision. And let's get to it, because his face. Let's get to it, guys, because I got 2 points that link together, unfortunately, because tonight Junior was heartbroken because Kopech didn't get the shot to close the game. Our boy Pedro went to the bullpen and extras with the lead, gives it to the one and not only Brian Shaw to close it out. And let me at least give a little positive here for Pedro, because the night before, he allows Kopech to go finish the last 2 innings to hold it down for the save. However, tonight he doesn't go to the guy that he leaned on the night before. And, we lost the series, boys. What you got?
I'm going to go on a limb and say this. If Pedro had not let Kopech go out for the second inning and get that save, he should have been fired on the spot. Okay? I haven't seen Michael throw the ball that confident in a minute. He looked very, very good. And I'm sure everyone in the league is like, wow, okay, Michael Kopech back on the radar. And he's key not only for the Sox future, but potentially via trade, since there's not a lot of closers. Yes, I am upset because tonight is an opportunity where in my fantasy team I have Michael Kopech, because even when the team is bad, usually games are close, and you'll get the Bobby Thigpen 57 saves on a team that was not that great. So closers are closers. This is a part I don't understand. If I'm a beat writer right now, I'm going and asking Michael Kopech, were you not available to make the close today? Because I put money on that the way that he pitched yesterday with the day off, Michael Kopech was ready to come in and execute. And this is where Pedro does things. And had it worked out and Shaw got in the save, everybody would have been like, wow, Pedro's a genius. It worked. It does not mean it was the right move. Just like the day yesterday, he won the game, but he bunted. He pinch hit for Kevin Pillar to bunt the ball for the 8th and 9th hitter to come up. Okay, these are all things that it's managing 101. It's something that a college coach, it's something that in any managerial experience, like this guy's managed in winter ball. Like he has a managerial experience. There's other coaches around him. These are all the moves that I'm like, only Tony La Russa can get away with making such a bad move and you're not second guessing it because he's a Hall of Fame manager. Anybody else, you're like, what WTF, what are you doing? And you're coming down and as a manager, you have to say, I messed up, which happens. But then he'll defend that. And that's the part where I get concerned because fans don't think that players are second guessing the managers. Players are sitting on the bench saying, what the hell, what is this guy doing? He just literally put a pinch hitter to do this. And it goes back to when Rick Renteria, I thought, lost the team was when he pinch hit Collins for Edwin Encarnacion. And I said, that's it. The clubhouse is like done. The players are like, this guy doesn't get it. So that's my concerning part, that even when he is winning, there's things that he doesn't do well. And then a game like today, where you need to get all the wins you can get, today's game hurts. I put this game on him. He's at -5 right now, meaning there should have been 5 games that I think they should have won because of manager or coaching. And that's a lot of games with not even out of the first month.
Damn.
And you know,
it's a beating right there.
I had a third point this week, and I just want to touch up on it real quick before I move on with this conversation, and that is on Sunday he also put in one of his favorites besides Shaw is the new Debbie Garcia in a high leverage situation as well, and blows that game as well. Although tonight he had a clean. I saw you tweet it.
Finally.
I saw you tweet it.
Well, I was shocked he had a clean inning because he's struggled a little bit, and I liked him at the end of last year. I was like, oh, okay, maybe we got a little something here. Let's see how he looks in the bullpen, and he's been off to a rough start, Debbie Garcia.
Yeah, but question for you and Justin and you guys, and this is a question for everybody because this is like new school, old school. Do you guys think that guys better off when they have routines than when it's just like you don't know what's going on? What do you guys think it's better for players? Like college style, you don't know what's going to happen, or like stay on your toes, or like everybody's like in a routine of like, hey, what inning do I have? I want to ask you guys that question.
So I work a 9 to 5. I do retail. I get really grumpy when I don't know my work schedule for the next week, just for the next week. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Game season. Over 6 months.
I think that's like optimal probably for a lot of people is I know exactly what I'm going to do when I come to the ballpark. I mean, I would put my job against yours, Justin. Like when I go to work, there's so much of the same bullshit. I like it when something different happens or when I got a different thing to do, you know, like, so sometimes I prefer that. I think that would be the default. You'd like to have that, but you know, shit happens in the world, and sometimes that guy's not available, or this is a terrible matchup for this guy, so normally he has the 7th inning, but we can't put him in because this is like the worst possible matchup for him. So I get the concept of like, yeah, the guys would like to be lined up where they normally are, or roughly where they normally are. Hey, you're kind of going to pitch this, you're kind of going to pitch to this type of hitter, but you know, shit does happen in the real world. So.
For me, I feel like everybody in that pitching staff should know their role and should have at least a routine and understanding on when their time is likely to come. Yeah, I feel like you hate to see it when you have these head-scratching moments from the coaching side of it, and you're like, you know, as far as like these like leverage situations where you're like, all right, they probably should lean this way, but they do a full 80 and go a different way. I feel like it's probably throwing them around. However, this is a pitching staff right now that's so inclusive going into the year that they are just all fighting for themselves at the moment. So I feel at the end of the day, the routine, they're so used to a routine at this point that for me, OJ, I think it's beneficial to have that as a routine for the roles wise.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because I will give him credit because when I saw Lenin Sosa batting third, I laughed. I did. Never even seen him hitting third in winter ball, but it worked. Again, the offense is not hitting, so it's like, whatever, let's try something. Every manager's done it. It worked. Awesome. Not typical, but it was good. It was one of the things that worked out. I brought it up because the day that the name is blanking out. The kid who was the opener, who through the 2.5 innings struck out the 5.
Tanner Banks.
Tanner Banks. Okay, the guy that followed Tanner Banks that threw the 4 innings and a third. He's never relieved in the minor leagues. Okay, meaning they've never opened the bullpen doors in him running out. And my question was, why not start him, give you the 4 innings and a third or whatever he's going to give you just from a routine.
Jared Schuster, the guy who ended the game, right? That's
exactly. And now those are the things that, again, I don't know if they don't, like, if they want to keep it a secret from a strategic standpoint of why they're doing these things, but it's one of those things from a managing, like a decision making that leaves me as a head scratcher, because I'm like, wait a minute, you have a guy that's never come out of the bullpen like ever in the minor league career, so to come and do it in the big leagues, it's like, wow, okay, that's interesting, but then you literally have the right guys there. You just have to flip them, and maybe you give yourself a better shot. So those are the things that sometimes, like those 180s, throw me off. And I get that you don't want to have routine. You want to keep guys on your toes. But those are the things that Pedro does. And not only Pedro and his staff. It's not just him. That leave me thinking, like, why are they doing this?
Yeah. Jordan Leisure should have been in the game tonight.
Yeah, this is a question. I feel like they're easing him in, but I'm like, why? He had such a strong spring that I'd be wanting him to go in more often, get some more innings in to this point. Because from what I've seen from the early get-go of the season, he's been throwing the same stuff that he's had in the spring. He's been letting it up. And the few opportunities he's had, I'm surprised that he's not getting any of these opportunities. Like, I feel like Tony would probably put him in a situation of high leverage early on.
He probably would have had like 8 innings right now if TLR was the manager.
I'm going to say in Pedro's defense, which I don't like to defend Pedro very much. Jordan Leisure did throw 2 innings yesterday, and so we were talking about the Kopech thing. Kopech's an experienced pitcher. He's a guy who's been a starter. Like, it didn't seem odd for me if he was going to come back today, but for 2 innings for Leisure, maybe that was a little too much for him to come back on back-to-back. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But
no, so
you're right, because he's an effective guy. You want to use this guy, you know.
Beef, but to your point, when you're saying you'd like to, that's a great point right there. And that's where that post-game interview is so important, because any manager goes in defense and says, hey, we didn't want to push Michael, and that's why he wasn't available. We didn't have Leisure. You say, okay, well, hey, Brian Shaw. Hey, it was Brian Shaw. Right. And it is what it is. And, you know, sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not going to work. But when you don't know and they give you this, I like to call them Tony La Russa answers. And people have asked me, why do I call them that? Or Joe Madden answers. When you've gotten so good at what you do, you can say whatever you want and nobody can second guess you because you've had success. If you haven't had success, people think you're a moron.
Yeah,
that's just the way how it works in baseball. So when he doesn't answer this, and I'm sure he's probably not going to tell us why these guys were not available, that's what I think that we're missing, because there's so much left to answer that we just go and make all these speculations in the Twitter world, and we all get lost and we all judge because he doesn't let us know and say, hey, this is what I had. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, it is what it is. Brian Shaw. Hey, let's write it out. So that's one thing that when we're doing Pedro's grounds, that he speaks so well. Like, he's not a dumb guy, that he tries to adorn himself so much, but doesn't really say anything. And I wish he really say, hey, this guy wasn't doing this guy wasn't doing that, and, you know, let all the fans off the hook. And I think people would like him a little bit more in his decision making.
So, Gonzo, before you go, I just want to touch on this. Nothing to do with the White Sox, actually. Jose Soriano and Ron Washington in LA. Soriano is coming off of 2 Tommy John surgeries. He's 25 years old. He's coming from the bullpen and being worked into a starter. The first inning against the Rays this afternoon, he had the bases loaded, nobody out. I'm pretty sure if he pitched for the White Sox, he would have been taken out in that first inning of a crucial start, because they're trying to wean him into being a starter. They're trying to convert him. Ron Washington let him pitch 3 more innings into the 4th. His pitch count got up to, I think, like 83. But that's one of those things where a manager can make the difference, because I'm pretty sure the next time Soriano has his name called, he's going to have a starter's routine. He's going to get out, do his stretchings, get his warm-up. He's going to be more prepared to make a start instead of thinking these bullpen doors are going to open. That's your point with Schuster. If you're going to groom him into a starter, why is he coming out the bullpen doors? Why?
That's job security, by the way. The 2 things you've mentioned there, that's Ron Washington not giving an F of what's going to happen in this team the next 6 years. And and somebody that knows they're going to be here for a while. And I know that
because there's no way, bro. Soriano was all over the zone. Anybody would have took him out.
I'm just saying, I know that from experience because when Ozzie was in his first year managing, there's things that he did in that season with pitchers, so they would learn that had it been in 2011, wouldn't have happened. Meaning the leash was that much shorter. So because it was his first year and he's like, I'm in a 3-year, I want to like see what I have. So because he felt like he had job security, like I'm not gonna get fired like on my first year on the job.
Right.
Pedro is managing again. I don't know if it's right or wrong. He's managing like his contracts here for the next couple of years because he's like, oh, what are we going to do in the next 3, 4, 5 years? Instead of thinking, hey, let's win now. But then again, Grifo's grounds. But then he'll do the complete opposite because then he'll play older players over younger players. When in reality, if you believe in your job security, you're like, hey, let's see what I have here. Because I'm going to be here for the next 3, 4 years, and I want to see what I'm going to have here in my young guys, and I'm going to play these guys. So that's going to be interesting, I think, in the next couple of weeks, how he starts playing, because all these veteran guys are down, how he starts playing that young group and giving him those at-bats that have kind of his hands been forced. Because something that has shocked me, Grifo's grounds, is that he actually likes older players and he likes younger players. He really likes the old guys.
And that's like a complete 360 of philosophy that you want in this rebuild right now.
Well, I agree. I was like, if you have nothing to lose, and that's why I think BeefLoaf is completely right about the people panicking about how this team is playing. It's like, I know that you're not. I'm upset when you can win a game, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't like this was unexpected. This is not last year. You came in knowing it wasn't going to be good.
What I do want to say though is, I feel like, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I can understand that philosophy with leaning on veterans to begin the season versus, vice versa, because they've done it before in their careers. However, going throughout the season, you're going to want to flip that switch and start, relying more on your youth with this rebuild. To end this segment here with Grifo's Grounds, my last question to y'all in the chat is going to be, when do you feel Grifo's tenure ends? And who's going to take it from there?
Well, when's his contract? And somebody asked me that, like I knew that. I don't know what his contract, how much he makes, because like manager contracts are not public. So I'm assuming that next year he's got an option.
Nobody tell Gonzo it's tenure, not tenure. Nobody tell him.
But no, I'm being serious. Like, is there been any article?
Was it
a 3-year deal, a 4-year deal? I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I thought we said it before. I'll look into it. You guys go ahead.
I think he got that Eberflus contract, like 1.5 years or something.
Well, I'm saying managers' contracts are not like a thing that are like, you can't go to Sports Track and look it up. So it's
right.
It's we don't really know what like it's like, oh, it's 2 years, 3 years. Like we don't really know the details of it.
According to a Forbes article, Grifo received a 3-year contract.
Okay, so this would be year 2 of the 3-year deal. So he's sitting on a next year, and meaning the 3rd year is not an option. So meaning it's picked up no matter what.
I don't even think he makes it to next year.
I think he does after the article.
Which article?
It's so funny in the baseball atmosphere of the Chicago White Sox that the one guy that does not cover the White Sox writes a less than 5 lines about something about the White Sox, and it becomes this crazy news where the White Sox have to give a statement from the chairman, who never really gives statements, basically calling the source and Colley's article false. So now I think that the part where I found that interesting and very ironic, okay, and I actually discussed this with Ozzie today during lunchtime because we were like debating this, and I said, you think, and I was using him as an example, you think that Jerry even in like the years between like 06 to like until you were gone, he never thought about firing you or anybody on the staff? I was like, that's what an owner does. I would think if I was an owner, I'm constantly thinking about, should I let this guy go? It's like an option. It's like, oh, like, could it be better? It's just something you play in your head. So if we think, no, I'm just being honest. Like, if you think that, like, if I'm in Pedro's seat and I don't think that my boss is thinking about canning me, you're not being a realistic human. Like, you just came from losing 100 games. You're starting off slow. You got to be like going to work like, oh man, this is not great. Just like in regular life. Like if I'm in my job and I'm not doing a great job and I have like 5 bad performance reviews, I can't sit at home like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to get like a 10-year extension. I'm like, oh man, I better start networking because it's probably not going to look good. So the fact that you say that you're not thinking about ever moving this manager, it was an ironic quote to share, because now it's like, oh, now he might really prove everybody wrong and just keep him till the end, just to say, I told you guys that I was never going to lose them. So that part's very interesting, how that whole thing happened, because after that comment was made, I said, oh, he has got a couple more lives left, for at least for the season, I think.
So the only reason why I think he didn't get canned this offseason was because I don't think Jerry wanted to pay 2 contracts with managers for this year. So that's why I feel he's going to finish this year. As much as I want it, like what Shaw just said here in the chat, him being fired at the All-Star break, I would love to see that. If not, I'd want to see it in probably May. But, I mean, at this rate, you brought up Montoya. I mean, that's a guy I would at least rather have right now through this rebuild for this year. I'd love to see that happen, but I feel like this is a situation where after the year is over, they fire him this offseason, and because we have no idea, who's been brought up at this point, how the rest of the year goes with individual development goes. But the question is, after Montoya, is who's going to be next in line?
He's in AAA.
Who's in AAA?
He's in AAA. I think the White Sox future manager is in AAA.
What's his name?
The Phenom. He's been in the White Sox NHL.
Justin Jershell?
Jershell. Yeah, he's part of the Birmingham project. Here, I'm going to give you guys something. So,
yeah, give it to me.
I'm just saying, like,
Please.
So you guys put it into context of, and people kind of downplayed the Pedro Grifo hire. Jerry Reinsdorf, not only did they not bring back Tony La Russa, okay? They said no to Ozzie Guillen because they publicly made it open that they interviewed him, okay? They interviewed Joe Espada and any other manager, including Charlie Montoya, that had big league experience on a pennant race. All those guys got passed to get Pedro Grifo, okay? I was shocked when they said, wow, Charlie's going to be the bench coach for Pedro. Like, it probably should be flipped around, but because they thought so highly of him, okay? How do we know that Pedro Grifo was Rick Hahn's idea and not Chris Getz's from the beginning? Like, how do we not know that? The connection is Chris Getz. Like, I said that from the beginning. Like, wait, like, maybe they say, hey, Rick, this is the guy. And Rick was like, wow, yeah. But, like, was it really his idea? It makes sense. So, like, they have him so high, meaning he's like a prospect. Like, you want your prospect to really work out.
Hang on, though, but this only makes sense in hindsight, Ozzie, because you didn't know Chris Getz was going to become the GM back when the hiring happened, right? And
Correct.
Theoretically, there's 2 guys ahead of him in the pecking order, Hahn and Kenny, ahead of that, who have to make this decision. So they're trusting that guy to make the decision for them. It sounds a little far-fetched to me.
I'm not talking about, like, they said, oh, Chris, you make the decision. I'm talking about, like, like when you have friends and you, like, you kind of just lay it in there, like, hey, like, throw a name out there. It's like, oh, if they get him, like, and you just throw a name out there, but it wasn't really that person's original idea. So, as an organization, I mean, like, he just threw the name out there. Like, it wasn't, they're like, oh, wow, this guy. Because it wasn't a name that I would have thought they would have came up with. So, I feel like they have him higher in their thoughts on, like, his baseball ability and acumen. I think they have him higher than people think, than just meaning, like, the regular census. I mean, like, they really are going to, like, they have him as a top prospect. They gave him first rounder, got given a lot of money up front. Yeah. He's going to get his playing time.
He's going to get some time, yeah.
He's going to get some time.
So you calling him Jackson Churio?
No, I'm being like, he's their Jackson Holiday. Like, it's a guy, like, you can see that, like, when you get a guy signed for, like, $2,000 and, it was a 100th pick, it's like, hey, this guy's not good. Okay, you let him go. It's no big deal. But everybody in the organization was so high up on him. And here's the thing. When you bring, and this is just normal in all baseball now, the people that you bring around in the front office, you're like, hey, he doesn't have to be a genius baseball wise. Like we can help him, be better, and we can help him win. You don't have to be, there's been a lot of managers that are not geniuses in X's and O's. So that's why I think that the fan base and the media, I think that we've downplayed how much the org really likes Pedro.
That could be it. My thought on this, I think he'll last the year as well. I don't know if he'll last the whole contract, Ozzie, but my thought on this was with Getz taking over, he came in and he made a bunch of changes, front office changes, added positions, brand new people coming in there left and right. And to request that many adjustments, that many new things of the owner, I just thought this was something lower on the totem pole with regards to him thinking, this isn't a major problem at this point. We need to get these people out of here. We need to get these new people in here. We need to change some of these philosophies. And he'll look at him this year and see, okay, what do I think of this guy? Do I think he's worth it? Because last year was a fucked up year, and it's hard to judge a guy on that year. Now, he didn't have a good performance, but you give him another shot and just kind of see through it. So I'm kind of with you in like the duration. I think they're giving it a serious look right now. I'm not sure. And maybe he did put the word in for him. And then once he got in the door, the other guys loved him too. And we're like, okay, great. Maybe you're right that it's just like they have a higher opinion of him than the general public. And it makes sense because the one thing that he really struggles at is communicating to us. Like you were talking about, you might've been talking about a pre-show, just like if he would just be a little more direct and say, we did X, Y, Z. That's why we did it. Everyone would love it. They'd be like, okay, cool. I understand what's going on here. He tries to talk to the fan kind of at a level where he's not telling us. He doesn't want to inform us of stuff. I don't know why.
Yeah,
So
they're getting in trouble.
I want to ask you guys because we're talking about Grifo's tenure. Now, a lot of people, not tenure, Gonzo, tenure. Now, we're living in a world where a lot of these owners are paying these young guys up front. They're trying to buy out the arbitration year. Like you're not hitting free agency, you're mine. Do you think Grifo lasts long enough to where Jerry? Because obviously, Colson Montgomery is the only extension eligible player I see right now. Like, period. Do you think Grifo makes it to that point to where he at least gets Colson get extended, or you think he's canned before anything like that happens?
I agree with Beef. Like, I think he's going to get the year because, so again, even if it was Chris's idea, general managers usually get a hire. Like, this is my guy. So Kenny got Ozzie. Kenny inherited, the manager before. Kenny's first hire was Ozzie. And then Rick didn't get his guy, and his guy was Pedro. Well, Chris Getz, even if it was his idea or whatever, he threw the name out there, it's not his guy. Like in hindsight, it's like, hey, I inherited this guy. So he's really evaluating them and really not jumping in and being like, this is the type of manager I need, and really giving himself a year and time and saying, hey, let's evaluate this guy and see if he's going to be the right guy and not jump into it. It's like he doesn't want to ask for the marriage and proposal on the first date. He's giving himself some time, which again, from Chris Getz's standpoint, is really good because if you look at it, talking about changing the structure, he really changed the top decision makers, but let like everybody on the field, a couple of changes coaching wise, but kept it very, very similar. Now it's not only going to be Chris Getz making that decision, it's going to be Chris Getz, Barfield, Bannister, after having a whole year of like, hey, let's reassess. And obviously a lot of things in the front office are not news. Like if somebody's moved from a department of like day-to-day baseball to like draft, the White Sox have made a lot of moves where there's people that still work there, but they went from like day-to-day baseball to like this person's now in the draft and this person. So they've made moves within internally, which they haven't fired someone, but like they've moved resources. So I like Beef's idea that Chris Getz is really looking at Pedro, and Pedro's, again, he is showcasing his moves that he's making, the media, the way that he talks to players. So he's really managing for his job and the future of them, saying, hey, we'll keep Pedro. He's the right guy. We can help him out and be successful. He will get better or he's not. So that's going to be interesting. And depending on how Pedro does, I think dictates the type of manager they bring in for the future.
But when we look at this in hindsight, can we at least, going back to, Ricky's the one that started off that last core and didn't get to see through it. Because then they brought Tourney into the picture. I'm not saying that wasn't the wrong decision for that moment, but we saw how that panned out. So can we at least, for the long term, set a coach up with this core going forward if we know right now that Grifo is not the answer by his process that we've seen over the last over a year at least, why can't we get rid of him sooner? So that way, by the time this core gets into place here in the big leagues, they're with that coach for the future here.
And that's where I think we're going to see the timeline that they haven't talked about. Because I feel like Chris Getz never came in and said, I think the mistake that the last regime was they opened a window and said, we're going to win in like 5 years. And you're like, whoa, reverse countdown. I'm going to be honest with you, Gonzo. Rick Renteria wasn't a genius in X's and O's, but his players loved him. I'm talking about guys like Moncada. Like they love that man. You know, he was very, very, not like love, like other people are talking about love, like we're a family. Like Rick was very close to them. And that was actually a problem because Rick would let them get away with a lot of stuff that should have been kind of nipped in the butt early when they were rookies. But he never lost the clubhouse. It was his clubhouse. Rick was the man. Not great in X's and O's. Looking back at it, and again, it was a weird time, pandemic. The team played really well. They were like one series away from potentially running the table on everybody. And they kind of like thought all in, like we were that much closer. And they might have jumped the gun and let Ricky go a season too early. And that's why I think that they're trying to really assess what do we have here in the big league core, meaning we're not going to go and make moves of signing guys like Rondal and Keuchel and kind of like, oh, the core's ready, when really the core might not be ready. So I think Chris Getz is being smarter about that. And I think that the manager decision is going to tell us like how quickly do they think they're going to be able to compete, with what they have. And that's because they haven't opened up a timeline. Like we've given it a timeline, like 2 years, 3 years. You know, like if you give me $100 million with this pitching staff, I can put you a team that's going to win 81 games, probably with Pedro managing. Like it's not that crazy to do it. You just got to spend some money. So I just want to see like what Chris's plan is in reality with that.
And that's what I really want to emphasize here is Chris's plan, OJ, because I know I might be biased with this move here with the accusation of trading Jose Rodriguez for cash considerations.
4 teams do that.
What was that?
4 teams do that. 108 is not buying enough beer.
4 teams. Well, we got 15% discount this year. That's what it was. They had to make up for it. You know.
That's good though.
Season ticket holders got 15%. It's good.
Really?
It's good.
Wait. Season ticket holders
have 15% off all concessions this year. We get a little code, which is nice.
That's awesome. That's amazing, actually. That's a win for the White Sox.
It is actually.
But the biggest point of this is you've got guys. I mean, we can go over their 40-man, but you look at the ages, right? Schultens, I mean, gosh, Leon, Hill, all these pitchers in their upper 30s. Yet we just traded a 22-year-old to a contender, and we barely saw. So we're now seeing Sosa finally, even though we've seen him called up the past 2 years. But Jose was. I know we were joking around, Junior, last year, but Jose was called up and down. Never played, just sat the bench. And it's like, okay, I get it if, like
he pinch ran at one time and he came up to like the first baseman's belt. I was surprised how small he was when I saw him out there. I was like, I didn't want Jose out there because I was worried he'd get hurt, Justin. He's a tiny guy. I didn't realize.
You thought we had fucking out too.
I thought for a second we did.
It's really funny. You guys were mentioning beef, and most people don't notice stuff like this. This is like why Ozzie's very interesting. So Ozzie made me look how many games Colson Montgomery had started in spring training, like as a starting shortstop.
Okay.
And he was like, and it was like 1 or 2 games. It wasn't a lot of games. And he was like, they don't believe in him. Like and this is coming from just a manager with experience. Like when you think a kid's going to be good, or you're trying to have him make the team, and you're like, as a manager and as a front office, you're like, this guy's almost ready. If he's in the game, he's starting. Like and that's how they treated him as a prospect. That's how he did it with the coaching. So those little things, like with that type of like with those players, and this is why I think like right now, that's when they have to go do that, is that we haven't seen certain players play it out and kind of have those 300 at-bats where you say, okay, this guy is just garbage, get him out of here, next guy. So I agree with you on that. I think that the reason they let him go is because the cash consideration for a 22-year-old is probably a lot higher than for a 30-year-old. So that they were like, hey, this is the only guy. I'm saying like this is the only guy that's going to bring us back cash that they want. And if people didn't really want that guy, again, and it goes back to guys like Oscar Colas, when Chris Getz, and knowing the style of player that Chris Getz has, and knowing the type of player like Grifo's been talking about, I'm like, man, my guy Oscar Colas does not fit this. They use the word athletic, okay? And they use the word contact. They want a guy that can move. He doesn't fit that role. So now I'm like, they're never going to play him. Like they're always going to go for like the scrap ball guy. So right now, and this is when we talk about development, this is where they have to develop players. Like you have to go in and you're going to lose, potentially 90 to 100 games. Might as well do it with playing the young guys and seeing what you really have before you go and commit and say, this is my future.
But they have their ass half backwards if you just trade them to a contender who's who's eyeing that potential and that young prospect. Like it just blows my mind that.
Where did he go?
The Phillies.
Yeah, there's certain teams I wouldn't make moves with. There's certain teams that if they called me and I was a general manager, I'm like, no. Like they call me and say, Justin Lee, no, he's not available. Hey, take Justin Lee off the list. So just call for it. Just because I know like they're very good at what they do. But again, I think that development, and this is something, and we're talking about it earlier with my guy Sheets. He's having a great week. And I feel like everyone's going to curse him because he will struggle. And I love Sheets because he's baseball royalty. I love his swing. He's a head through guy, like contact with a lot of power. Love his size. And I think he played first base DH. So I like Sheets, but everyone's like cursing him. I saw Daniel Palka hit 29 home runs in the big leagues. Okay. I was on the Daniel Palka train.
Don't let Ken hear you say this.
Me too. I love Daniel Palka.
Daniel Palka. The year after he had that, and I was like, this is going to be one of the guys that's going to have one of the best seasons after that 29. I was like, wow. But it shows you how hard Major League Baseball is. So you have to see guys in those first years of arbitration really develop. So it's going to take you some time. When we saw guys like Pantera and Moncada who have a lot of talent kind of struggle. So if we haven't learned at this point with this team, it happened to Gordon Beckham. It happened to just make the list of guys that have like Diane Visario, Avisail Garcia, guys
Jordan
that they've
Danks.
I'm saying guys that they've overhyped, like meaning from a media standpoint, and never really let them develop. I'm saying I really hope that they let these guys like really play out their 2-3 years and really see what they really have to offer, because at this point you're really not trying to win anything. And if you think you are, then you're a little delusional. But I think that letting them develop, and I think the fan base would be okay with that, seeing what they have.
Like, think about this. As a White Sox fan, I was excited for the opportunity to see Popeye on a day-to-day basis because I live close to the stadium. Instead, Paul DeYoung the rest of my life.
Well, but think about it, like Beef is like my age. It's like when the White Sox let Paul Konerko play all the time, and they let the team go. I'm saying to develop players on that team that, they eventually traded, or guys that were younger, and they really built that team towards the future. But, if you need to have those losing seasons to do that. And again, I don't believe in tanking, but if you're not going to compete, you have to see and develop what those guys have, give them those 400 at bats and really see what they have moving forward. I think like if you're ever going to do it, this is the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gonzo, a full disclosure, I was way down on Lenin Sosa after his performance in the second half last year. Now, the guy swings with his heels, man. That motherfucker swings hard, but he had only 2 more walks than I had, like in the second half. So I was like, this guy, he's going to have to look at a few balls here and make sure he gets a pitch he can hit. But, come to this year, he does look like a different hitter. And so what Ozzie's saying is, like, sometimes this takes a little bit of time. The other thing I sort of like, and it's unfortunately it came at the expense of Yoan getting hurt or whatever. I mean, I think Sosa looks better at third than he does at second. At second, I don't love him. At third, he looks like he can really play the spot. So I'm interested to see, like, they may just stick it out. I'd like them to stick it out with him there at third and just see what does it look like. I don't know. We know he has power. What happens?
The point is that you're trying to make here is time in the big leagues.
Michael Garcia, Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
I'm saying he hit like 4 home runs. He's a defensive guy. This year he hit 4 home runs already. But he's a defensive guy who's a shortstop.
Melendrez too.
And I would say, like, it's funny that you bring up the Royals. How come the Royals put a decent environment for their young kids to grow, change positions, change offensive approach? You got Michael Garcia and MJ Melendez basically flipping their baseball profiles within their major league career overnight with a dog shit team. And I gotta figure out how the White Sox can't fucking roster
Well, Cleveland did it too,
second
though.
baseman for the
Cleveland
last
did
4
it.
years.
Well, I'm saying Cleveland did it. Andres Jimenez is the best shortstop in that organization.
Andres
And
Jimenez,
he was
another
second.
guy, a shortstop. Michael Garcia, a shortstop playing third base. Like, you mean to tell me that these teams that are deprived of talent are good enough to where they can find the diamond in the rough and actually manipulate it to where they don't have to be just so, how could I say, a bottleneck of just nothing? Look at the White Sox, have nothing. Brandon Shoemaker today made an error at second base today. The only significant thing about that is he made an error at shortstop the day before. So all he needs is an error at
Somebody
third base
brought
to add a hat trick.
they just threw Montgomery's name out there. I need to see Montgomery in the big leagues.
But Beef, when you're talking about Sosa, maybe moving him to second to third is like what the Cubs did for Madrigal.
I mean, yes, I was never a magical guy, but yeah, I mean, to me though, Sosa's got pop. So like, maybe he wouldn't be, maybe he'd be a back of the order type guy. And I laughed too when he was hitting third yesterday. But then I was like, okay, well, this is our right-handed hitters. Like, we're gonna have to load up here against this left-handed pitcher. But
I'm gonna go. People are not gonna like this. Lenny Sosa's a better baseball player than Nick Madrigal.
But is he better than Popeye? Because I've always thought he's better than Popeye.
Well, here's the part though. The reason that you have guys like Popeye and Lenny Sosa, this is like where fans get like the draft messes them up. They had Madrigal like, oh my god, and then you see all three of them together, and you're like you could literally draft. It's the same guy, meaning like they all do kind of the same thing, just very separate. So we're obsessed with one first because it's a first rounder, and again, not every position has to hit 30 plus home runs. And I know that the fans are obsessed with the home runs and, you know, a ball go far.
Ball go far.
Yeah, team go far.
Well, put it this way though, if you could, but then you can go and say, okay, if my team is built around defense, you can then go and get two boppers instead of like, right. So you really go and get two guys that hit, you know, a Schwarberg, the guys that hit 45. They got to figure out a way how they're going to construct their lineup. So wow, they get Lenny Sosa to hit 15 to 20 and play good defense. Wow, that's a win in my book. Why? How many 35 home run third basemen are out there? Like how many 35 home run guys? Go Google Joe Creedy. People think Joe Creedy hit 30 bombs every year. It happened once, and the Sox didn't win the ring that year. Right. Rowan never hit 30 bombs. Like 30 home runs is a lot of home runs in Major League Baseball. So you can have a winning team with having just a few guys hitting the home runs. So that's something that you can build up. Again, having balance, so cutting down on the strikeouts. So I think that the Lenny Sosa, if they're really going to give him a shot, and you know that Colson Montgomery is a future shortstop, let him play third and see what you got there, or second. Whatever it is going to be, let the kid go and see. Let him burn himself out.
The Chicago White Sox are telling fans right now, we don't want our team to look like Oscar Colas. We want more Dominic Fletcher. So here, for the next 2 years, you're going to see more Dominic Fletchers in uniform. More scrappiness, more approach, more take an extra lead off. Like, those are the type of things that on a day-to-day basis, they can help piece together the 1 or 2 extra runs you're going to need to get over the hump when your talent can't. We don't have any pitchers that's going to miss any bats. You don't have a bullpen. Vaughn's hitting 3, 4, and 5. And he's only batting 198. There's no protection in the lineup. You're going to have to piece together a lot of stuff. And players like Dominic Fletcher.
So let me ask Beef this. And this is something that I've thought about. No, I know Gonzo's probably going to cry when I'm going to ask Beef.
Oh, boy.
Should the Sox consider sending Andrew down for a wake-up call?
I would be interested in it, or at a minimum, they should be, if they don't want to send him down, which I would be willing to, like you're saying, as a wake-up call. Hey, go down there for 3 weeks, mash, work on the shit that you're not getting right, and then you're coming back once you're done with this work, kind of thing. You take a little risk, though, that he goes down there and maybe doesn't hit, and then, there's a confidence blow, but it's probably worth it. If they don't want to do that, at least start moving him out of the lineup when it's a bad matchup for him. When you got a slider monster on the mound, get him the hell out of the lineup or move him way down in the lineup or something. Because right now you're treating him like he's a top hitter. You're putting him in the 4 spot a lot of days. And it's like, has never really produced like that guy. You know, that just hasn't been him. So either you got to figure out the optimal times to use him, or he needs a little bit of a reset so he can become that guy.
And it's crazy because this is the game of baseball. Like I wanna tweet out every day, oh, it looks like Vaughn needs a day off. No, fuck that. This is baseball. If he's healthy, he's playing. So what are you gonna do when you're technically not gonna take a healthy guy out of the lineup? Beef, to your point, he probably got to go down to AAA, get him some feel good, a couple backflips, get him a couple of video edits on the TL. White Sox Twitter gonna get him. But at a certain point, it doesn't look like he's a different guy than last year. The swing's still the same. The mobility's still the same. I just feel like he's not hitting his free throws. He's turning the head over the bat.
I was going to say, let me ask you guys. What do you think the problem is? Justin, you go first, but I want to hear from all you guys. What do you think the problem with Andrew Vaughn is? Why does he not produce? It looks like he should produce. He don't produce.
He a ground ball machine. And he doesn't have speed, and at the point to where he's not going to have any loft. So you're going to have to be content with a 19 to 24 home run season from Vaughn. You just got to put a lot of guys around him that get on base to where his spray chart could yield enough RBIs to where you don't really throw up that he's not hitting the ball over somebody's fence. So in this year particularly, I just think the lack of contact. Way too many strikeouts and a lot of run-producing situations for a guy that don't really have an issue going the other way, spraying, hitting a high fastball up in the zone from as a right-handed hitter. I think a lot of strikeouts this year, and we got to put a lot of fast guys around him to get the RBI because you ain't going to get the home run. So.
I agree. I think that, unfortunately, he bought too much into what a first baseman should produce in today's world. And I think that he really wants to get that home run. Like, really, I cannot be a 21 home run hitter. I need to be a 30 home run hitter. And that's affecting his batting average. It's affecting his getting on base opportunity. And I think that he should not worry about that and really go back to, gap to gap. I really think that he's a Walter Rignac type of guy, meaning he'll hit the ball in the gap, just like Sheets is. The difference is Sheets is a giant, a monster. Vaughn, who is not a very big guy. He's not. And the last year's stat that really, really hurt was, in my eyes, the WAR at minus 0.3, because when you're not a producing guy, home run wise, you can't strike out at that rate. You need to get on base. You need to play good defense. You need to drive in those runs and make that jump from like 60 to 80 to potentially go higher. So I think that he just needs to find out who he is. And it's okay if you hit 25 home runs, 20 home runs, but your all-around game is better. I really think that he's probably in his head of like, I have to hit so many more home runs. And if he's a guy who's competing, you're looking at the guy who's the other obvious first baseman, who is Gavin Sheets. And Gavin, every time he puts the ball in play, it's usually a home run.
That ball hit deep.
Well, I'm just saying he's an Adam Dunn. He's an Adam Dunn guy. Like when he hits it, it's going deep. Like that's the type of player he is. So I think that he should probably step away and find himself like, hey, let me get on base and really assess himself. Because if he continues with this approach, it's going to be a very, very long season for him.
I didn't think I was going to have a Vaughn discussion in this episode, but we're here. So, all right. As far as his career goes, the advanced analytics will say he's a plus hitter. When you look at his stats, his production has increased each year. However, the slash line really hasn't budged. So, this is a guy that's trying to make up. He's trying to overdo himself in the past 2 years with little protection in the lineup, with all the injuries, and with him being moved around the lineup, offers little protection for him to really produce. However, going to this year, this is a year that you don't want. For me, I think it's just a cold streak. However, it's a cold streak. This is going into year 4, his biggest year where the pressure's on him. And unfortunately, you don't want to begin that year in a cold streak. No one talks about, I brought this up to Junior, why are we forgetting that Abreu always started the first 2 months of the year?
Come on, bro.
Oh.
Abreu's from Cuba. He never lived in
okay.
Because in August he'd hit the fuck out of the ball
Junior,
and make all the numbers.
Junior, that didn't change down in the dome in Houston. So you can't just give me this bullshit
Here's the thing.
of the weather.
Jose Abreu, 4 years into the big leagues,
I can't believe this
a
shit.
track record. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying recency bias goes. We're all focused on the pressure of our first baseman because we go from Konerko to Abreu.
He's never earned no.
Sorry, Frank. We go from Frank to Konerko to Abreu.
Yeah, but I'm saying that he's never earned. Here's just a part, and this is when you're learning about Yoan Moncada. Okay, I always ask guys in the big leagues, including my father, including guys that I'm friends with, when did you go to spring training? Like, this is my job. Like, I'm the man. Like, people know who I am. I can suck, and I'm not gonna get overplayed or cut. Like, this is my job. And most guys are like, oh, 6-7 years in, like, or when I got paid. Okay, Jose Abreu, for the rest of his life, when you look at the numbers, he brings the same lunch bag every day to work. Paul Konerko, even in his worst years, Ozzie Guillen, you're like, oh, those guys will, and that's when Grifo says these guys, this team's track record. I'm like, whose track record? No one has 1 year is not a track record.
What was Abreu's OPS last year?
Well, I'm just saying though, like
it was bad.
It's ridiculous.
But he still put up like 90-something RBIs.
Correct. But I'm saying like
he crushed in the playoffs too.
No one in this team has
Hold
earned
up.
the
You
track
can't talk
record.
about Abreu's numbers when Vaughn overproduced him.
But it doesn't matter. This is the thing. We cannot compare.
By the slash line?
Guys,
No.
this is not about Abreu wouldn't have been here because of the money. Okay, the conversation is, are you moving forward with Vaughn as your first baseman for the next couple years? Or are you looking to draft somebody, sign somebody? That's where he needs to figure it out. He needs to put a couple years like he did last year for like 2 or 3 seasons. And then you're like, oh, wow, okay. He's done it for 4 years in a row. There's a huge potential for him to get one of those years, jump up to do, hit the 30 home runs. But he has to have a couple years where he hits the 20. He can't have 1 year where he's like 20 home runs in the year that he had last year, and then this year be like, oh, I hit 196 with like 10 bombs. And
then you got to think
negative 10.
I was just going to say, unique to a guy of Vaughn's characteristics, like let's just take a guy in Cleveland, your boy, OJ, Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor don't hit a lot of home runs, but unlike Vaughn, he's a fucking monster with runners in scoring position. He's leaving nothing on the bone. So if Vaughn wants to keep himself in said conversations, he either has to improve with runners in scoring position or take the whiff completely out of the equation. And obviously we know the latter isn't going to happen. And
I think finding himself. And again, we keep talking, and I don't like when they bring guys like, oh, well, Abreu did, like, Abreu's not here. Like, the move was made. It's literally like when you look at the future.
But that's what I'm saying, though, that move should have been made earlier. If you're going to draft him top 5, that move should have been done sooner.
Also, it hurt that he didn't get to play. So he would have just been sucking longer. So instead of 4 years sucking, he would have been sucking.
No. Instead of putting him in right field, you start him at first base where he's supposed to be from the
By the way, his hitting's
get-go.
affected, not the glove. The glove
is fine.
I said he might need to go to right field again to start producing. He might miss right field.
No, but you're saying the glove wasn't the issue.
The fact that people blame his batting, okay, that it didn't produce because he had to go to the outfield.
But that's true.
It's not.
It is. You want to know who talked about it on NBC Sports for length? 2 of the best hitters on the White Sox, Frank Thomas and Jim Thome. They both talked about it in detail in 22.
Yeah, because when Jimmy went from third to first, it really affected his hitting. I would have said
no, from right field, from the outfield, a position he's never played before. The stress on his body of a whole season, it took a lot of power out of his lower half.
Have you guys seen Andrew Vaughn in person?
Yeah.
Yes, he's short, but his legs are thick. Like,
he's automatically a low center of gravity.
He's got thick legs.
When you see Andrew Vaughn hitting batting practice, you don't go, "Oh my God, what a pop! What a pop!" Okay, you don't go, "Oh my God, this guy will hit 40 home runs." He's not Joe Borger. Okay, that's something people are not talking about. When Joe Borcher stepped in AAA, you're like, if this guy figures it out, he'll hit 40 home runs, 45 if he actually hits the ball. Why? Because he's just a monster hitting the ball. Just like Ozzie Guillen put a lot of balls in play, but he did not have the pop. It's like when you're a boxer and you have the knockout, do you have the pop? When Andrew Vaughn hits the ball, he doesn't have the pop, okay? The pop that a first baseman has when the ball travels, he doesn't have that. I don't care if he would have played right field, left field. I don't care what Frank and Jimmy said. I'll argue with both of them. By the way, both great hitters. Neither of them know shit about scouting. By the way,
you know what?
Both of them.
You know what? Two things. Gonzo, I'm sorry that I derailed this with Andrew Vaughn, but I'm so happy that I did because I love this discussion.
For me, when it comes to Vaughn,
I don't like that excuse about the defense. I don't.
For
Just
me,
say, hey,
it's okay.
Also,
You have your opinion. Everyone else has their own opinion.
Chief hasn't produced because he was in right field.
I did not know, Justin.
I just want to wrap it by saying this. When it comes to Andrew Vaughn, there's two things that you could make a decision on. One, again, I mentioned it, what things could have been if you start him off at first. Or two, if you're talking about junior scouting, right? You could have traded him for Sean Murphy. And I think that was 20, Beef. I'm not sure if you remember the conversations.
No, I don't remember. But yeah, his value was high at some point.
Yeah, it was high. It was high back-to-back years because first.
Yeah, because nobody had seen him.
It was before Murphy. They first wanted to trade. I think it was it Sean Manaea? I think it went. Sean Manaea was in discussions with Vaughn with the A's, and then it went. I think Murphy, and then after those conversations, it went Montas, Frankie Montas.
Gonzo, if Beef said, Ozzie, there's a place down the street from the ballpark that has this amazing sandwich or food, I'm going to be like, oh my God, this guy knows what he's talking about with the food and the sandwiches. What makes you think that the previous regime, who made so many mistakes drafting players and made so many mistakes over-evaluating players, that they got it right with Andrew Vaughn and that he is going to emergibly, that they stomped his development? That's the part where I want to, Chris Getz, to his defense, and Pedro, they're still having players on their roster from previous drafts and previous regimes that they've drafted them. So the overvalue of what fans think, because obviously we know what Nick Madrigal is. He's in the Cubs, a utility guy, no longer is in anyone's radar to be an everyday player. So Andrew needs to, this season for Andrew Vaughn is a big one because he's on a team that he can actually play every day. If he doesn't produce even what he did last year, I'm gonna say something I think Chris Getz in that new front office owes him nothing and will make a move to bring in somebody that they think is their guy. That's where he's at right now. Regardless of what they did the previous regime, this is a key year for him because it's like, wow, it's like when you go to college. Like, this coach didn't bring me.
Yeah, I mean, my bold prediction this year, one of two, was he was going to have a career year and then get traded at the deadline. So
I've also been saying I'm going to lose 60 pounds for the last 10.
Mind you, career year is over 21 home runs and whatever that batting average was. But I don't think it's hard to do. And everyone needs a bat at the trade deadline. So
yeah, but I mean, Vaughn's batting he's batting 200.
To get back, again, I said it's a cold start. I mean, we're 11 games in?
11 games.
12 games in.
12 games. Yeah, 12 games.
So I want to wrap this up real quick with, I know we talked about Montgomery here with who you want to see this year. I want to wrap this up with how things look right now. I think Montgomery is probably going to be the only bat we see this year out of the youth coming up, because when you look down at AAA, it's mostly pitchers from that stand out right now. So these are the guys that, I want to see brought up within the next 3 months. I want to see Nastrini brought up. I want to see Cannon brought up, and I want to see Burke brought up. I want to see those 3 arms brought up. One of them has to be there in the rotation to fill that last spot. The other two can be in the bullpen. You can drop some of these older guys down and start focusing on the youth and start seeing these arms out of the bullpen. That's at least what I want to see, because the other guys offensively that you want to see, like Ramos, like Veras, I know someone just brought up Elko. These are all guys that are in Double-A. Like, we're not going to see them until 25. Cuero, another guy.
Elko played college with BeefLoaf.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
He's as fat as me too. Like he's like he's like 270 pounds. He's a big boy too, like me.
But yeah, no, that wraps up our discussion here. I want to toss it over to you, Beef. We just got, within the past, what was it now, 3 weeks? I think it's 3 weeks now that since the tourney's been done.
Yes.
Let's do a recap here. Tell us your thoughts of the tournament, and then we can get into your 15 seed of your bracket.
I love it. Well, I mean, so the tournament, we always set up the 108 tournament. This was the 7th one we've done. We set it up running into the season because, for us at least, doing content, the spring training just doesn't generate much for us. It's hard for us to read. We don't understand enough about like Ozzie said. People don't know scouting. We don't know scouting. I don't know fucking guys swing or nothing. And what I'm watching in spring training, I'm gonna be deceived. So we set up the tourney years ago to be a fun thing going into that. And truth be told, we little by little we had been kind of removing a lot of television and radio people from it to get more to the core of what is White Sox Twitter. And so this year, that was kind of our emphasis. And from a numbers standpoint, we have sponsors for it. We kind of sell it out there on impressions and then views of our post-game shows and different things. It was the best numbers we've had doing it with just the real people. And so that it made us excited because we in the early years, we kind of leaned on the fact we'll put, this person from the radio and hopefully they'll be able to, or White Sox Dave was always really, and I love Dave, he's my man, but, not having to have a guy like that kind of carry all the viewing and everything was great, that it was just like the regular people. So one of the best ones we had ever, we had a brand new champ, Maddie Spagnola, and she had never been in the tournament before. I didn't even know who she was until last summer. She came up to me at some tailgate and she introduced herself to me and she said, "BeefLoaf, I want to be in that 108 tourney." And I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll check out your Twitter or whatever." And next thing you know, I put her in there, and she shot through it. But no, it was a good tournament, a lot of great content, and people seem to have fun with it. So yeah, all in all, very successful from our standpoint on that.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you, Beef, on another successful tourney. I want to talk about Maddie Spags for a little bit because she does a lot of work for Sox 35th, and if obviously knowing the guys, Jordan and a couple of them. Seeing that brand of content come from one of their group was actually, it was refreshing because, we talk about the stat nerds and everybody else, but then we got Maddie shooting jumpers like she's Caitlin Clark, getting billions of votes. All of a sudden, she rode her jumper to the championship.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's some of the moments that not a lot of other fan bases can create. Now, mind you, we are cesspool. We are. That is the truth.
It's not worse than Facebook, though.
No,
that's what I've heard. I stay away from Facebook.
No,
that's
it's not worse than Facebook. But B, you guys gave Maddie an avenue to now she's showcasing everything else, and you guys with your tournament have been doing that for a few years now. So, like I said, I want to congratulate you guys on another good tournament. Looking forward to the next one next year, and the next one after that.
I appreciate that, Justin, because that's the point of it for us. Some of it is people who we already are aware of and make content, and so it feels more like community. Some of it is someone you might not have heard of, and we'll put them in there and say, okay, they're pretty funny, or we see the things they do out there. Let's just see how they do end up doing in the tournament and try to get it out there. And hopefully, during the tournament, people get more follows. They follow each other, and hey, maybe it won't be permanent. Maybe you follow that person, you're like, it ain't worth the shit, I'm unfollowing. But at least you kind of get a little exposure to the different people, and that's really the approach. We're making some changes, like we said in the shows. We're no longer going to participate in the 108ers. We're going to, so we can do a better job running it, because it's tough to be in and run the whole thing and do all this shit. So we're removing ourselves from it. But I think I've started making next year's bracket already, because I'm a maniac and I start like right away when the last one ends. And I like the direction it's going in so far. So
do you get? So I saw Houston was trying to do a copycat of it. Has any fan base reached out to you and said, "Hey, how did you do this? because for me, I actually looked up and see if anybody else has ever done it, and the only team that I found was Houston had this version of it. So has anybody reached out to you from another fan base and said, we want to do our own tournament?
No one's reached out for like, hey, how do you do this? Or what would you give, advice or whatever. But I saw that the Orioles used to do one. Apparently they canceled theirs this year. I saw the Bears Twitter was doing one this year. Yeah, there are a handful out there that do them. So like, I don't know when they all came about. I only know kind of when we started ours. I don't remember anyone else kind of doing it at the same time. And also the other fellas, Teresi and My Sox Summer, they thought this was the stupidest fucking idea ever. When I pulled this out, they were like, this is idiotic. Why are you even bother doing this? And then years later, now it's like one of our favorite things of the whole year they kind of put together.
Well, I think that out of all the stuff that the White Sox represent, when you say 108 or you're in the stadium, you're like, oh, that's the section 108. Like, now, like it's like a fan, it's like a part of the team. So that's why I love the Tourney, is because you get to see content that you've never seen before. I love the stuff that people make up. But so obviously I would love eventually, okay, and I would love to have like same type of concept with other teams where like the champion of
goes against
them because so I know that people call it a cesspool, and what I like about the 108 tournament is that it's people that follow the team but are making content throughout the whole year. It's not just like don't tell me, oh, Pedro sucks. Like, dude, like I'm watching the game, or
exactly.
Oh, this guy's amazing. It's something that it gives you like an avenue for creativity. And that's why I think it's awesome, because you're like, hey, you're getting through the day and you're like, this is awesome, this is hilarious. And that's what I think the 108 is pretty good. We're discovering, because I've discovered some pretty good shows from it.
Great. I'm glad. Yeah, that's what we're shooting for. Thank you.
Yeah, when I first got on Twitter, Beef, you, King Mac, and Buzz on Tap were the first three I followed on Twitter. And your tournament was how I stumbled on the White Sox Twitter. I was like, what the fuck?
So we should blame them then for you should blame them?
Yes, literally, yes, bro. Like, BeefLoaf, King Mac, and King
I've followed you through all 8 of your accounts you've had, Justin.
Yes.
You're my man. That's why.
They actually just sent me a notification like, this is my last fucking account.
Well, please, I have to ask you something, because I always ask people. So when you're like in the limelight and you're a player, the easiest way when someone talks crap about you is not be on Twitter, okay? And you don't have to deal with it. But your persona, which, by the way, if anyone's never had a chance to meet BeefLoaf, he's actually a really normal person. And everyone from the 108, I've actually met them a long time ago. Actually, all very normal humans. Probably one of the most normal White Sox fans that I've ever met. And that's
they're gonna rewatch this shit like
dude, there's White Sox weirdo fans out there that I've met throughout the years. They're so normal. So like, it doesn't really match like their personalities. I think I feel like it's like alter egos. How do you deal? So it like there's that F BeefLoaf 2024. Like, there's no one that takes more shellacking on a daily basis than you. How do you deal with that in the morning? I'm like, have you always had tough skin? Do you walk out as like, this is like, how do you deal with that?
I have not always had tough skin. I was a crybaby when I was younger, but as I got older, I just sort of like always let it bounce off me. I don't really care. And I also kind of treat it as, the internet is fun. So I just like allow people to come at me, and sometimes I'll go back at people like that. Not usually maliciously, but I think a lot of the 108 not of the Sox Twitter people know they can have fun with me, and that I'll have fun back with them. Like even way back in the day, kind of one of the things that brought up the 108 Tourney too. He was never in the 108 Tourney, but he gave me all kinds of shit during the 108 Tourney. Was Jeff Passan. Just dunking on me for pictures of me and different things. And ever since then, like we've become friendly with Jeff. We've had him on 108 podcast a couple times, and but just being able to take it, I guess, I don't know. When I'm an accountant, but when I was a younger man, like in college, my job during the summer, or whatever, I worked with a bunch of tradesmen. And so they just brutalize you, man. They just talk so much smack to you and whatever. And if you could take it, then you're in. Then they're like, they bring you, and then next thing you know, they're taking me with them side job, and I'm making money on the side, doing all this shit and getting along with the guys. Like, so I think there's a level of if you can take the shit and deal with it, you're kind of in. And then I think South Side is like that. Bridgeport was like that growing up. If you bust someone's chops, that means you like them. And so there's a little bit of that going,
So I love the part that I find you so interesting. Obviously, your name is awesome, but is that you just said it earlier, like you don't consider yourself a baseball expert, which is really funny because I think out of the whole Twitter world, you're probably one of the more sane, normal person. When your takes are very good. So like, how do you balance that of like your takes are really good, but yet you don't take yourself more serious as other platforms do? But the stuff that you're sharing now at this point, it's like very knowledgeable stuff. It's like stuff that you're like, hey, this guy's not just joking around. Like the stuff he's dropping is knowledge.
Well, I think it has to do with me and my brother have always really loved the White Sox and thought deeply about them. It's like our hobby to like think real deep about that. When you're not at work, you want to exercise your brain doing something else. And I always just want to learn stuff. And like, for a while, I really was into learning a lot of stats and a lot of the advanced things or whatever. But the more I get out there and talk to people, the more you learn different things that you didn't think of. Stuff that, would never come to top. I remember I had a conversation with you. You were talking about we met in real life. We met at the White Sox season ticket holder event in 2020 before everything shut down. We're talking outside of there, me, you, and Treasy, my brother. And you were making the point about analytics and how you can't just put a random analyst in there and assume that they know everything about this thing just because they can run a spreadsheet. And kind of like from a real high level, it's like, yeah, why don't we take a step back there and think about this? And teams are now doing it right now. They're taking the baseball guys that understand the stuff too and putting them in there. Sometimes you gotta just think further along, and you also have to realize you don't know every fucking thing. And you hear and sometimes you'll hear a crazy take, and my brother and I are just the type of people like, well, that sounds insane, but let's dig in. What could it be right? That might be right. We don't know, So it's always just trying to learn, I guess, maybe.
So how do you manage? Because now, like obviously the show's called 108. It's a section to the stadium, but like now it's a community. Like now there's people that like hashtag 108 and say some crazy stuff like it's like a movement. So like, how do you manage that world of like, just there's so many crazy stuff out there, like during the content, people just share whatever nutty. Like, how do you manage that community now? Because it's no longer the show. Now you guys represent so much. How do you manage all those crazy folks on in the Twitterverse?
Yeah, I mean, carefully, because they can come and find us in our seats too. And so there is a level of like, we're meeting a lot of these people as well. And you kind of get them in person. Like we did a show a couple weeks ago, the night before opening day. We did it at the Ramova Theater, which has just reopened like this year in 2024. It's been closed about 40 years. We were up in their loft level, and 200 people came out to watch us do a live show. We did it with the Sox Machine guys, and so you're meeting these people, you're pressing the flesh with them or whatever. And I think in general, most of the people that you meet, like you're saying, Ozzie, there's some crazy fucking Sox fans out there, but there are kind of crazy. And so it's just a level of embracing that. But yeah, there is this is why we have like pseudonyms, right? This is why I call myself BeefLoaf instead of my actual name. A bunch of people know my real name, but I don't want to just blast it out there just because, there is a level of you're meeting a lot of people and the community is starting to get bigger and bigger. Also, anything that the community, you guys fuck anything up, it's not our fault. That's it right here.
Well, it's like a big responsibility because obviously the world is like, everyone's so sensitive, and you're very good at kind of like managing, you kind of like, I think the Mike Clevenger, I think that, and I retweeted it, you probably shared the best like defense to like why you didn't think it was a good signing, of separating your personal thoughts to the team. So again, it's like a big responsibility because again, you have people being like calling you out. So I think that's the hardest part when you're doing that, because you're managing a lot of people out there now. It's like you're representing literally White Sox Twitter out there in that world.
And then, me as a consumer, there's some people that support the 108 that I absolutely can't stand. And usually what I would normally do is I would take my lunch break and I would send the 108 Twitter handle 108 messages about all the people that fucking bother me. And then hopefully my complaints will be met. I haven't had one fucking reply, Beef. One thought. But to your point, OJ, when you get to a situation to where I'm not, let's just say, socially responsible for these people, but I do have a brand to maintain and protect. I have a responsibility for that. And that's something I had to learn with Bad Guy Radio, because it was an ugly look sometimes with me going into replies and just replying nasty stuff at people just to defend yourself. At a certain point, what are you defending? You're actually making yourself seem like the boogeyman you're fighting. So now what I do, since I'm a lunatic and I actually do need clinical help, when people argue with me on the internet, I'll just reply with a sports take. So, hey, Justin, you're a piece of shit. You're never going to be anything. Okay, what do you think Andrew Vaughn's OPS is going to be? Asshole.
Yeah. So
See,
so
it's
one
all
of the things
about
that
copium.
he has no idea about this. So when Ozzie was being interviewed, and there were like plans of like, what are we going to do if we get back? Like, number one, all FanDuel accounts, everything needs to be shut down. You know, like
Sure, yeah.
we might. So there was things, and we put it all on paper. But one of the things that we thought was a great idea of like connecting back, I was like, hey, you need to have an interview with these guys, and like in that same setup of not White Sox, really, like you're gonna go and you're gonna talk to the fans, like straight up. Like there's gonna be an event, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna talk to them. They're gonna ask you whatever they want, and you're gonna be like, this is the reality of it. Because I thought it was gonna be so authentic, so real, and I was like, the 108 guys will sit them down. And you're going to have a conversation with them. They're going to ask you about anything. Because I think that brand has been so important, because also what majority of the people don't know this is that most of you guys that are in that section are actually season ticket holders.
Yeah, that's right.
So not only are you guys, which I think if you're a season ticket holder, you can say whatever you want because you're spending your hard-earned money in that, but you guys
You're
are
invested in the team.
You're invested in it. I respect you. Like, if you're like, so that section, not only is it a big representation, but it's also a representation of people that are season ticket holders. So that's what I find it so unique, that it's this world that's created in social media, but now yet you guys are spending money on a consistent basis in that section.
Yeah, and it is tough to spend money right now, as down as they are. But we do love going out to the ballpark and stuff. But I agree with you, Oz. Like, the more you can talk directly to the fans and have them kind of understand what and your dad was always great at that. And when he was doing any interview, like if people feel like, and even on TV now, people feel like they're getting, I know some of it's comedy because he's a funny guy and he knows how to make, he knows how to hit a joke right and get everyone lit up. But you're getting honesty out of it. You're getting the guy, guy's just telling you what he thinks about this thing. And I think the further we go down the path, the less and less you get of that. I mean, there was a lot. The Rick Hahn era was loaded with Rick Hahn never saying anything, not telling the fans a thing. I would stop listening to the pressers just because of it. So it is nice to have some authenticity out there.
How do you feel as a 108er when people tell you guys, because I know I've seen this on social media, like, don't support Jerry. Like, it's like, I feel like it's Venezuela. Like, if you go to Venezuela, you're supporting the regime. It's like, dude, I'm just looking at the beach. Like, I'm just saying, like, how do you, like, you have season tickets. Like, do you feel guilty when they're telling you, like, the reason that they're able to keep doing all this is because of people like you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we laugh about it generally, and we kind of make a joke. Once in a while, I'll push back on somebody like that. I'll tell them, I'll spend my money the way I want to. You spend yours the way you'd like to. And we'll get a little aggressive sometimes, but most of the time we're like, my couple grand that I'm spending right there is nothing compared to the TV money. I mean, let's just really equate what's what. Otherwise, if my money was worth that much, they'd be listening to me a lot more as to what it is. So yeah, no, I don't take a lot of those things to heart. The other things we don't take to heart as much anymore is like people would kind of dismiss us in our baseball acumen because we're rowdy fans that sit in the stands, or we're like we're not polished media people. We don't have a journalism background. We're just three fucking knuckleheads who like this shit, and we were invested in this stuff. And so a lot of times we would, especially in the earlier days, we'd either get the overt, like, these guys are idiots, they're drunks, they don't know anything. Later on, we got more of the backhanded type of stuff that, like, you could tell they're trying to talk down to us about what we know or don't know. And so, like, you got to let that roll off. Otherwise, you'll never get out of bed again and make another podcast or blog or whatever the fuck. So that's just the way you got to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To go back to the tournament, was there anything that surprised you as far as Junior's region, how his journey went?
I loved it, actually. And I had makings I was going to put Junior. The thing with the tournament is I have the seedings, but really we try to make matchups because you want matchups that are going to get the people going, not only the people in the matchup, but then the rest of the crowd. And so I put him against Herb Lawrence in the first round because I thought, Ozzie might not work as hard if he's against someone who he doesn't know as well or is aware of as well. And Herbie is a heavyweight in the tournament. I thought, all right, maybe I can get Ozzie fired up here. And I did get you fired up. You rallied the troops and got that moving. And once you started getting that going, like me and the boys were talking, like, oh shit, man, Ozzie Jr. is gonna go on a run here. If he gets past Herb, he's got some runway here.
Herb was the
real quick. I just want you to know that I was probably one of the main brainstormers as far as Junior's like.
The campaign manager. That's you.
I'm
that's
like
you,
the campaign manager. So I had to get him hyped up. Because like I'm looking at the region and I'm like, oh my gosh, if we beat Herb, we're going up against Sean, who previously 2 weeks prior we had a little like banter on I think it was a Clevenger.
Sean went off on me because freaking Chuck interviewed me when I was in Venezuela about how Jasiel Puig looked, and I was like, "What? I didn't invite him to camp. I don't know what his legality is. I know that he was blamed for stuff. I don't know that he was still on trial." So he went off on that. So here's the part, though. So the mistake that they made, and this is a part where people don't, especially with me personally, they don't know the background. Okay, number one, of that I know this tournament. Like I've been following it for a long time. I'm very active on Twitter. Okay, so I know that the game. The part that they did not deserve to win is because, and this is a fact where I like the fact that they're going with fans, is that they didn't make content. Okay.
Yeah.
They could have made content, and so I wanted to beat them really, really bad because they live. This is the part where I make the difference. Okay, I'm Ozzie Guillen Jr., so that's different. And obviously, you could say people follow me, whatever. But I don't work for an organization. The organization that I work for is in Venezuela, so I don't have a channel other than this one. Like I'm not getting paid by someone to make content. I don't work for The Score. I did that when I was 21. I don't work for NBC. Like I've done all that already. So like the fact, like the reason I like BeefLoaf and the guys from the Bums is that this is like their hustle. So like they're this is on their like they're making content like while they're at work. Like I love that they're going above and beyond. Herb gets paid, Sean gets paid.
Yep.
That's their day-to-day job. So when I saw it, I was like, oh no, if I can beat these guys, I'm gonna send a statement. They were Eloy Jimenez. They were overhyped. I was like, Herb. I was like, what are you talking? Oh, once we passed them, I told you, I said, once we get to beef, it's going to be hard because they make content like they deserve, and I'm going to have to take it to the next level. But the first couple ones, I said, this is not them. This is just like they have takes, but they're not in there. And we went in, but not all in, because obviously then it would get crazy. But that's what makes the tournament special, where I feel like people that work in media are protective about that. Like they don't want to make themselves look like fools. Where people that don't give an F, that this is like not their day job. They're doing some stuff that you're like, this is borderline insane or super funny.
Right.
Just because it's just funny. And I think that's what makes it special is that these people have a platform where you're discovering, like the girl Missy, she's hilarious. Like Missy Misty for the rest of her time can never talk about White Sox ever again. And I'll follow her just because I think that her content is funny. She's just funny.
She's hilarious. Yes.
Hilarious. She's like someone that I enjoy. Like I think this stuff is funny, just like all the guys that do the wrestling stuff. So the reason that I was like, I'm going to beat these guys was to prove a point. Okay. I love it. And it was awesome. But again, they lost because they relied on they thought that their fan base was just going to go and vote for them because they were like, oh, we have a channel, and it wasn't the reality.
Yes. So, I love that that's your approach because that's what I hope for going into it. I hope when someone just sits on their laurels and is like, oh well, I'm on TV, like that they get steamrolled, and so that makes me so happy that was your thought process there.
So being campaign manager, I was all in the feels because there'd be moments where Junior texts me and it'd be like, fuck it, they ain't creating content, I'm done. And then out of nowhere, fucking 2 hours goes by and he drops the fucking cornfield video. And I'm like, where the fuck is this coming out of?
I was watching that shit.
I love that.
Let me tell you something.
Well, but that's the part where I asked Beef about having tough skin because I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm very open and we're talking about baseball stuff. But like once you get personal, like I don't have that filter of when I'm gonna come like after. And for me, it's very hard because I know stuff like from inside the clubhouse that I'll never share because it's like I'm gonna disrespect somebody else like that shared that with me. But then I'm going to defend myself, even though I am Ozzie Guillen Jr., which if I say something, it wouldn't be the same if somebody else said it. And then I do have an employer, which is the funny part. Like if I made content 24/7, I would go viral like a motherfucker because it wouldn't.
Let's do it.
I could say anything. So the fact like Beef and those guys, like they have lives. Like you just can't go all in and just be like, I'll do whatever I can. So like when I see a guy like half nude, I'm like, this guy has a job. Like there was a dude that was doing videos at school. Like the guy was talking smack about me. I'm like, this guy's literally in the north side of Chicago making like, I don't know how dumb you are to do this, but like this is borderline. Like I'm impressed. You're a nut job, but I'm impressed. And like we hold a list of like Ozzie Sr. has a list, okay, of people that he blocks on Twitter and like, I hate this person. I hate this person. Like he has a list. Like, we're not dumb like Chuck, and we're like, oh, that guy's a loser. Like we talk about it in NBC, like, oh, that guy sucked. Oh, that guy's awesome. Like people, like people who people talk about, they know this. So for me, it's hard because I can defend myself, but it's like a line of like when it's too much and when it's not enough. So I admire Beef because I'm like, dude, this guy's a full-grown adult. He's got a job and he's getting worn out. He's dishing it back. And I'm like, this is amazing because I wish that I could like be more like that because it's hard. It's really, really hard to manage that world when you're not a full-time content creator. If you're a full-time content creator, if I worked for the Barstool Sport, I could take off my short and do whatever the hell I wanted.
That's right.
My employer wouldn't be very happy and I'd be fired in 2 seconds if I went viral.
Oh my God.
I just wish the matchup with Junior and Beef. I wish we would have game planned that a little bit better because Beef, he had a video of him and his dad dancing, and he's like, I'm not gonna post this until it gets close, if it gets closer. And I'm like, God damn, I wish we would have posted that from the first minute.
Right
the first minute, the polls went off.
802, Gonzo. Throw that out there right in the morning.
I'm just gonna post it like, hey, getting ready for the tourney, halfway through the tourney, start making your content. And here's the part that's crazy though. Like if you're like a content, I'm gonna be honest, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna do one and done. But then in my head, I was like, but if I was ever to do it again, every single time I saw one of the guys, I make him say something stupid and then make like a compilation video of like why, and then have like Hawk and have like because you're like, oh, because once you're in it, if you haven't planned, it's really hard to be creative and like be funny. If you're not a funny person, if you're a funny person, like it just comes natural, which I think those are the people that have do really well in it. Like Maddie just dances. It's like she's just really good at it. Like her content's good. So I think when you have to really think about it, it's not easy. It's like, you're like, what the hell am I going to do? Like, what's not corny? What's good? What are people going to like? And that's part of like, from the creative side of like, hey, what can I do? And that's why I think it's so cool about the tourney in general.
Yeah, I totally agree, guys.
Another thing was when Junior's like, I think this was with Herb, like, is like noon, and he's like, hey, I'm going to post the Spanish video. And I'm like, okay, do it. And the next thing you know, you post the Spanish video and it wakes up all of Venezuela, and we get this. I didn't know that this was a thing. Like this whole like Venezuela, like I didn't know how much people were actually tied to like his account and like Guillen's world. When I see all of the votes coming, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have the whole. Like, I don't think this is what CHGO realizes. Junior had all of Venezuela coming too.
So this is the part that's funny when I asked him about has anybody reached out to him, because during that, the accounts that I reached out that were like, hey, what's this 108 thing? Because they're like, what, who's voting? And like they looked at it and they're like, wow, like they're looking at the engagement. They're like, this stuff is awesome. Why? Because in Ozzie, for some reason, the two teams that he's belonged to are probably the most toxic fan bases in the history of mankind. The team
no correlation.
Is just like the same, where you have like these characters, like these people where you've never met them, but they're like just nuts. They're just out there doing crazy takes and stuff. And he was like, oh my God, we should definitely consider this for like our kickoff next year of having a tournament of like doing this and having Twitter accounts go against each other. And let's see what can be created from it, because they were like, they thought it was good because again, the engagement, the following, like, again, it's downtime in the season. It gets you to meet other people. So that's when they were asking me like, hey, how far did you go? oh, okay, when's the next video coming? So that's why I was like, man, this is really, really something, because they were like all about it. They're like, oh, this is awesome. We got to do something like this for our team and our fan base. So it was cool. I'm looking forward to it again. I'm glad that I followed the champion before they were the champion. So, and again, I thought that like for next, like I have a list. I'll probably put it up of like, in my opinion, who had the best content, who was the best follow after that.
I'd love to see that.
After that, who was the most disappointing? Herb, most disappointing.
Have like a whole award ceremony.
I'll tell him that. He was the worst. He was the most disappointing ever. The whole channel. You can't have a channel that charges people to get content and then get beat by me. You just can't.
I do think his cornfield video went under the radar.
I don't. I thought it was hilarious. We talked about it in the nighttime show.
Do you think anybody related to Pedro Grifo will ever make a cornfield video like that?
I doubt it.
I highly doubt it.
Now that you're thinking about it, no, absolutely not.
And I'm saying, and I did it sober. I'm just saying, like, that level of like interaction and fun. They have no idea, and that's the part where we take it as like, this is fun. And like we're engaging. I don't think people realize like this is us engaging. Like we read it and we laugh at it. We make fun of it. Right now, I'm not gonna lie. We have pictures. Okay, I have a file. We have pictures of major accounts. Okay, major accounts that are riding Pedro so hard. Right now, they're riding him right now, really, really hard. We have all their Twitter saved when Pedro got hired during the interview process.
Ooh.
Flicking off Ozzie, saying this is the worst. Don't Pedro over anybody. And now it's like, this is why this is like, you keep receipts. And it's funny because it's like, hey, you had a choice. You got to ride that out. You know, and that's why the Twitter world, we know when Shea Rionda tweets the first family, that nickname was given to us by Joe Colley. Like, we know what you're dishing out. Now they're all hiding. Nobody now is claiming it. But that's why the Twitter world is unique in the 108, because we get to go back and engage. I love it. Like, oh, Ozzie's kids. I'm like, dude, we were 22 when we were on the team working, and I'm 40 this year. Like, I'm not 2.
Right. Exactly. But you're right, though. It is a chance for everyone to see what Sox fans are like, and we're totally insane. And you're right about that part for sure. Gonzo, one thing just to go back to you, campaign manager, the Spanish language video. Okay, because we took big notice of that. So when we're monitoring during the day, we watch polls as much as we can, the three of us, because, you know, sometimes there's bot action, right? So during the day, when that was released, you know, Ozzie's votes had gone up a bunch. So my brother went and took a look. We always take a look at, okay, who endorsed or whatever. And he responded back to us. He goes, "Oh shit!" He put a Spanish language video out there. This is gonna go nuts. And so we're watching the votes. We're like, "Oh fuck, man!" And people ain't even gonna realize what's going on here. But this is the shit right here.
But I think it's awesome that people obviously don't know how much work you guys put into it, because it's not like you guys make the tournament and just like sit back and say, "Let it run with it." Like, you guys are like monitoring. You guys are looking like who's going. You guys are like encouraging people to make content and whatnot. So that's amazing. So I'm glad that that obviously it keeps being a success.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The Spanish videos usually came like noonish. There's like midday, just because we had to re-key it again.
Revamp it.
Revamp it. Yeah.
Again, I think that it's going to get bigger. It's going to get better. I think it just creates a great atmosphere for just the as the ex-general manager called it, the cesspool. Do you think? I have a question, Beef. Do you think Pedro has a burner account?
I don't know. That's a good question. We met him briefly at the season ticket holder event. Very nice guy. Took a picture with us, shook hands, whatever. I don't know. He claims to not be plugged in, but everyone always wants to hear what people say about them. Like I don't believe anyone who really ignores it.
We know Rick had one.
Right. Yeah, that was always the word on the street that he did have one. People were always trying to find it too. We were like, there was one we were speculating. We're like, oh, that might be it. But then we kind of as a group decided, no, that's not it. We didn't.
Once I found out Ryan Poles had a burner, anybody can have a burner now.
Oh, of course, everybody can have a burner. Everybody can have a burner account. I'm just saying, some people just want to read what's in there. I'm sure some other people get engaged, but I've always thought about it. Like, I wonder if he has one. I don't know him that close personally. I never thought Rick Ventura had one. I just don't think it's his style. But I always wonder if like Pedro, because again, I don't feel like I know who the real Pedro is. Like he could be monitoring every tweet that ever goes out, ever in mankind history. So I wouldn't be. The one part that I love about the 108 is that I get to share so much about who we are. When people are like, wait, where'd you go to grade school? I'm like, bro, I went to grade school in Bridgeport. I went to Cork and Carries before it was Cork and Carries when I was like 7 years old to go grab Bobby Bertucci to come eat lunch. So that neighborhood, know it very well. And the people that are in it. Like, you just came from the north side. Like, you, and I think it's great. One other thing about the 108 that I love is that it's two generations of White Sox fans coming together, where you guys have guys that are like Ken Woe, where, you know, been going to the White Sox since, you know, Harold Baines was a rookie. That's how old
the
he
40s.
is.
He's old school, even though he's a couple years younger than me. He's old school.
He was like, "Oh, I saw you walking with your mom." I was like, "How old were you? You must have been an adult. You don't go as a 10-year-old to the game by yourself. Like, this is not 1950s, Ken. Like, we're like, I was like, if I was with my mom holding her hand, I was a child. Then why were you at the stadium by yourself? Like, how old are you?" But then you have like the younger group and the younger crowd, and like all that world comes together. Which is really cool, which I think it's a very unique place that both worlds come together. And you get to see how nutty both sides are for different things,
Sure.
Which is awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Beef, you got anything coming up for the channel or whatnot?
You know, 108 Podcast is Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central Time on YouTube. We do live stream, so we stream it on YouTube and then also on Twitter. I have my solo podcast that I do most Monday nights at 6 p.m. I haven't even tweeted this out yet, but I have Eddie Barstool coming on in 2 weeks. I'm actually going to interview him about interviewing because he's one of the best. You know, you got the leak. You got the leak that Eddie Barstool is going to be coming on. April 22nd is when we're set to have him come on. But yeah, I do that. Sometimes it's baseball talk. Sometimes it's talking to someone in media and just learning how they do the craft. So, and then on Sundays of home weekends, we do the Sunday Soak, which is a live stream from my hot tub, where we just talk about the weekend, what's going on, and we're we're just in there having a drink or two and just getting ready for the Sunday game. So those are mainly the things we got going on right now.
All right. Well, Beef, I know I told you 40 minutes at best. We're going at an hour 45.
By the way, best interview, top 5 interviews I've ever had covering me was them asking me the questions of like
the print interview. Yes.
Very good interview because it's like very White Sox of like what, and I answer the questions of like a true diehard 10-year-old fan Ozzie. Very good interview.
Thank you.
But Beef, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining, coming on the show for your second time on our show. Next time we gotta get your brother or someone. We gotta get someone else to join us.
Teresa would fucking love it. He would love to come on.
We got to get the GOAT, My Sock Summer.
You get My Sock Summer. He would love that shit too. Yeah, he would absolutely love to come on with you guys. Definitely do that, man. But thanks for having me again. It's always good to cut it up with you guys, talk some ball.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you.
Beef, we'll have you on again, and your others as well. Thanks for joining us, Beef. Appreciate
Take
you.
care, fellas.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Man.
Hey, low key, Gonzo, I don't like. You could have said the other guys in the 108. The way you said the others is like it's fucking weird. You already said fucking.
By the way, everybody knows how much I complain. Everybody knows how much I complain about long shows. Yeah. And today I'm like not bitching at all.
That's because you're a fanboy today.
I am a fanboy. I admire him because I think his because again, Justin, you and I are the same. Like you and I are like someone says something, I talk about your mom. Like he's really good. Like his zen is like he is what you like to call an adult. I'm like, I will grab you.
Yeah, and Beef do a good job with like me and you, we have no filter on the internet. Yeah. We'll fuck around and snap on somebody. Beef do a good job keeping it clean.
Yeah, like keeping it clean. Like I feel like I'm arguing. I'm 12 and I'm arguing in the playground. And here's the other part. Like during the whole tournament, I'm thinking like if I see this person in the stadium, I'm just gonna knock him out. And then I'm like, how about to catch a case? Like you're a full grown adult.
He turned it into a melee.
No, that's what I mean. Like I'm like it's mentally it takes you to this like dark place where you're like I'm a full grown adult. Like it can't be like, hey, sorry, I can't go into work. I just caught a case. I gotta go to court. Oh, what'd you do? oh, I knocked out some fan that talked bad about me.
Not
In
gonna
the
lie,
Twitter world.
I don't think you could defend yourself against this guy.
I can't. I will. I'm hoping that if Andrew Vaughn releases the inner beast that he has inside of him, it could be scary.
I'm gonna be like, hey, let's go.
Yes, Andrew Vaughn.
All right.
That's Gonzo. That's only 18 home runs. The inner beast is only 18 home
No,
runs.
21, bro. We gotta get
I
over
heard
21.
he's straight edge. If we were still in the days, I think that we would have to have a team party for Andrew. Let him loose, kind of find his inner beast that lies inside him.
And on that note, we got schedule and picks to come.
I miss Yoan Moncada.
Cut it short because I just realized I can't see Cease in the White Sox uniform. Breaks my heart.
Wow.
And schedule coming up here, guys. This weekend, Friday through Sunday, they're at home facing Cincinnati. Friday's looking like Flexen versus Abbott. Saturday, our boy, the ace, Crochet, is going up against Ludolo. Sunday, I don't know what they're going to do. If they're going to start Banks again, but he's going to go against Ashcraft. Guys, I think we get swept at home with Cincinnati. Okay, no. Okay, you're nodding no, but that's what my gut. They're so young. They're vibrant. I think they're going to be scoring a lot versus us. Really quickly, I want to highlight both Abbott, Ludolo, they're and Ashcraft as well. They've got out to some good starts so far this season. But the guy I want to highlight is Steer, who he was banged up going into opening day, Justin. But this is a guy that is batting 400, 3 homers, 15 ribbies, starting off hot.
Stick.
You tell me. I'll let you two talk to me out of us getting swept at home.
We're not gonna get. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna be honest, because I was just about to lie to you, Gonzo, and say we're not gonna get swept. We're gonna get our ass handed to us in a handbasket. Hey, listen, I know we're at home, but we are in the wrong place at the very wrong time. Ellie De La Cruz is hot. Spencer Steer is lukewarm, and you gotta think. We just watched the Chicago White Sox piss away some good leverage at multiple points of the game against a less talented team. If we give the Reds an inch, they'll take the game at any point. It'll be over with. They have a better lineup, better bullpen. I mean, the only chance we have is, once again, OJ, the starting rotation. And it's over with because that means my bullpen's going to be taxed. I don't see
winning one game. The Reds are coming from a 2-game losing streak.
We're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Ellie, again, the hard part is, and not to beat a dead horse, but like tonight's game should have been won, in my opinion. Again, I haven't looked at the post game to see why Michael wasn't throwing. Cost me possibly points in my fantasy because I got Michael as a closer, and then Class A didn't close because obviously they let them, they walked them off. But the Reds are 6-6. Getting swept is hard. I like the Crochet game just because it's him. I want to see him against this lineup, which is a lineup that right now it's a lineup that you don't think like, oh my God, these guys are amazing because they're not household names yet. But in a couple of years, you're like, oh my God, this guy was really good on this team, because they're actually a team that the White Sox should kind of try to mimic for the future on athleticism and speed and kind of how they play the game with a fiery manager.
So right there, though, that's what Chris Getz was telling us that we're going to get. That's the style of baseball he wants to see. So hopefully you're right, Junior. That's exactly.
Well, yeah, I'm saying
what
from
we're
a fan
pushing.
standpoint. I'm saying from a fan standpoint, like if you're there and you're like, well, I don't think White Sox fans are going and watching Cincinnati Reds baseball.
Yeah.
So it's a team that hasn't been great.
I watch a fair enough of Reds games. I got the Candyman and Jonathan India in fantasy.
Yeah.
The thing that scares me is the fact that the Garrett Crochet, he throws too many strikes to a lot of good fastball hitters. So you get him into a point to where he can have a lot of traffic on the bases without being unnecessarily wild or him not having command. He could be in total control of the strike zone, and it could kill him with this Reds team. Like,
If they're
I think
seeing it.
I think this is one of the few bad matchups on the calendar for the White Sox, and specifically Garrett Crochet. I would be very shocked if he leaves this start successful.
Justin, I think he's going to be decent at home. I feel like if this was at Citizens Bank, it might be a little bit different story. But I feel like at home he should probably have a decent start with no decision. But yeah, I feel you.
So he obviously, I think he's not going to get like. I'm not betting on Michael getting blown out, like Crochet getting destroyed. The only two players in that team that I'm like, oh my god, like they're red hot right now is Spencer Steer and Ellie De La Cruz, who's struggling. They're the only two batting over 300. If we were playing in Cincinnati, which is a shoebox, I would think that he might be in trouble. I want to see him against this lineup because it's like, again, it's a lineup that goes against all of the things that he might be lacking. So if he can dominate this lineup,
I'll be very impressed.
This is a big matchup for him. And again, I think that when you're building a great year, you're going to come against these matchups. And I think he's going to have a good start. I think out of all the games that they potentially win, I think this is the game.
Well, in my honest opinion, this is a ceiling start for Garrett Crochet. So this isn't a start where I'm looking for you. I'm not looking for you to be the best lefty in the league. I'm looking to see is your ceiling. Can your ceiling match the offensive ceiling of the Reds?
Who is he up against?
Ludalo. Lefty Ludalo.
Yeah.
He
and this is a guy that the White Sox should be patient on. I would not expand the strike zone on Nicky. He's a natural nibbler. He's the complete polar opposite of Garrett Crochet.
And that's been an issue with the White Sox for the whole year of when you're looking at guys' pitch counts when they're pitching against the White Sox. Tristan McKenzie, obviously everybody knows I follow the Tribe very closely. His first couple of starts has always been a control issue. And the White Sox were letting him not pitch. They were jumping on his like everything early. Yeah. And they helped him get out of problems when they should have been taking a lot of pitches on him and letting him get himself, kind of follow the scouting report. Like the unofficial one that by you just watching, you're like, hey.
Well, look at Tommy Malone, Bruce Chen. Like, it's always been our MO. Guys that we're supposed to wait out and run that pitch count up, we're anxious. Like, why does Bruce Chen have 65 pitches in the 8th inning? Why the fuck does Tommy Malone have 75 pitches in the 8th inning? Why is he still in the game in the first place?
I'm sticking with that one. I'm gonna go White Sox. Obviously, really? I shared my winnings with you guys on the games that I told you that we were gonna take against Cleveland. I told you guys today, which I thought the White Sox were gonna lose, and then I said, "Oh, they're gonna win this game. Kopech's gonna win it." They blew it. But I'm thinking one game they'll take it against the Reds. Would be a good kind of bar for them, especially with Moncada going down and them kind of figuring it out.
Did I win pick to click?
Hold up. To your credit, Junior, you did tell us about yesterday's game with the White Sox winning that. But to wrap up the schedule for the beginning of the second series next week, they're staying at home. Kansas City's coming to town. We went there this past week. Now they're coming to us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we're going to see some rematches with Soroka versus Lugo. Soroka had a tough start in KC. Let's see if he can bounce back. He also had a tough start. Was that versus Cleveland? He got roughed up too? The first game, I believe. Soroka? I think it was the first game in Cleveland. He got roughed up. Because Tuesday, Fetty's going against Singer, and then Wednesday, Flexen versus Waka. This is a tougher matchup to look at as far as coming to home. I think they'll probably win. I think they go 1 of 2 at home versus KC. I think they win the middle game with Fetty on the mound. Melendres is hot. He's batting 333 with 3 home runs, 8 ribbies. I want to see how you guys think about them coming to the rate.
Got to be careful with Kansas City bottom of the lineup. Bobby Witt and Vinny Pasquantino is low hanging fruit. Even though Vinny has started the season off a little slow, he has left the building tonight. He has left Kaufman tonight, so you can't sleep on him. But you got to talk about the MJ Melendez, the Kyle Isbells. Those are the guys that's turning the lineup over to the top to Michael Garcia. Because OJ, what people don't understand is with good lineup construction, your leadoff hitter in the 4th through 7th inning turns into a 3-hitter if your 8th and 9th guy is getting on. And that little guy that you didn't think got power, he's having 70, 80 RBIs because of good lineup construction. Michael Garcia is eating because Nelson Velasquez, fucking MJ Melendez, Kyle Isbell, all of those guys are getting on base and running around the crown like they ordering Burger King drive-thru. Seriously. Got to be careful.
Growth progression for Michael. I'm expecting a big series from him right now.
I didn't want it to lead into that.
I'm just saying, like, I think that the guy that they have to, again, when you're having a scouting report and you're looking at the big names, you're like, oh, I got to stay away from Bobby Witt. Okay, so Bobby Witt's not going to hurt you. Cleveland, you go, Ramirez is not going to hurt me. I always look at, like, what are the players around the superstars are going to do? Those are the guys that have to have big series in order for you to, have a good result. And I think Michael is, if he has a great year, Kansas City will be great. Because, again, he needs to help Bobby Witt, who's at that level already. And again, I think that's another team that when you're looking at players of guys that didn't come in and make a splash, 30 home runs one year, it's like progressional growth. And that's what you want to see from a team. Obviously, I'm a big Michael fan, personal relationship with him. I will probably see him at some point, bring my son to say what's up to him. He's a big Oso fan. But you can't get swept by Kansas City. Like you need to get 2 wins. Again, you can't. Those are those you're sitting with your staff, even as players, man. You're not going in there and saying, oh, we're facing this top team. You have to go in and say we can at least win this series or battle it out. So I'm expecting them to, be able to turn it around. It's hard. It's going to be hard for the White Sox with losses like the game like today. If you're in the standings and you're like, okay, well, we're winning 1 game, 2 games a series. If you start going in and you're like 4-20, 4-20, man. Even if people are going to start looking around and saying, okay, some movement has to be made because those numbers then start looking really, really bad.
Yeah. Now we're going to get into picks. Guys, we have a new leader on the board going into week 1. After week 1, Ozzie Guillen Jr. has won a pick to click.
With losing my guy to the...
Well, yeah, he batted 300 over those 7 games.
And then he lost a ribcage.
Yeah. But, I mean, Crochet had a no decision. It was 1 start, so I gave it to Moncada. Justin, you don't give me that look. Your boy he already hit the IL, I think, the next day.
But you know who won?
I picked Moncada.
No. Junior picked Moncada. You picked Moncada.
Yeah, you picked the other Latino. You know who won though? Who did we say as a team? And we sat joking around, said, "Oh, he's gonna have a great series." Gavin Sheets.
Oh yeah.
We said consensual was like, "Oh, who's the guy that no one thinks is gonna have a big week that no one picked?" And Gavin Sheets, man, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, key in balance. My favorite stat that no one talks about: 4 doubles.
Yep.
Double. Andrew Vaughn, for him to wake up and go there, needs to get doubles.
It's easier for Andrew Vaughn to have a 45 double season than a 25.
If Andrew Vaughn has a 45 double season, the White Sox are back above 500.
Period.
And the team's really good.
Doesn't mean he scores.
Oh, Andrew's not that slow. No, he'll score.
He didn't when they pinch ran for him.
Well, I'm saying he should again. They pinch ran. I'm saying he's not. He's faster than Paulie, guys.
You know what's crazy? He hit that, and they pinch ran for him, and he hit a double. And we're talking about him hitting 40 doubles.
We'd
He's
even,
good.
yeah,
Like, damn, he's
We'd
not even.
even-
He's gonna get pinch ran for.
we'd even talk about that aspect of the game and Griffo's grounds. But Junior, what was your pick for this week?
You know what? I'm not gonna go Latino on Latino just because it's too easy. I'm not gonna grab Gavin Sheets. I got the lead, playing with confidence.
Wow.
I'm going with Crazy Eyes. Andrew
Opie?
Vaughn. I'm going with Opie. I think
Opie?
Opie starts. I'm going with Crazy Eyes.
What the?
I'm going with Crazy Eyes just because I want to be controversial. He's hitting 231 the last 7 days. I think he's due for his home run. 2 doubles, 6 hits. His bat's waking up. The only bad thing about Andrew Vaughn that no one's noticing, and this is something that when you're not going good, he's failing with when the big moments.
Yeah.
So every time it comes big, it seems like he's missing a lot more. If you compare his stats to Andrew Benintendi, he's an MVP. So Andrew Vaughn is getting a lot of blame right now because it seems like where he comes up, it's like the big moment of we'll take the lead with myself. But I think his numbers right now, they're not as ugly as you would think, and he's on pace. So I'm going to go with AV.
I actually thought that's what we said last week. I don't think we said Sheets is going to have the big week. I thought we said Vaughn was going to have the big week because no one picked him.
We got to go listen to it. I thought it was Sheets, but I'm going to go with AV. Moncada's gone.
Yep.
Half of the
I'm
Latino crews in the IL.
Originally, I was going to go with Sosa tonight, but I got to take the softball because I need to get on the board. So I'm going with Sheets. No shocker there. All right, Jay, up to you.
Give me Lenine Sosa.
Oh my God.
What are you saying? Oh my God! For you're not gonna pick the Latino.
Who's gonna have the best year, Lenine Sosa or Nicky?
Lenine Sosa.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Sosa.
Because
I'm not gonna lie, man.
He's gonna run into like 12.
I like the Lenine Sosa at third base. Not gonna lie.
Mind you, of who? Miguel Cairo over there?
No, I'm not a Miguel Cairo. Come on, man. Lenine has more pop. No. Cairo was a good utility guy, but dude, no. You got. I think that right now, obviously, I never wanted Moncada to go down. Brian Ramos is not in the situation where they put him in a position where he can come up. And that's their own fault for their own reason. I don't know why.
Mhm.
It's Lenine Sosa shot. He can shock everybody. I think he might get Garcia. I think if he gets a full year with his home run, he might get you 15, 20 home runs. I really do.
So
yeah,
I
he
didn't
can run into it.
I didn't get to touch it when we were wrapping up the segment, but looking at the youth with the bats, I did a little number crunch. And last year at AA, I looked at both Ramos and Monty's at bat numbers. And Ramos at AA had 291 at bats. Montgomery only had 131 at bats. So that's probably why they started him at Birmingham. Got to see more.
They like the word Birmingham. And also, guys,
Yep.
I root for Lenine Sosa not only because he is Venezuelan, obviously root for my guys. He's actually the stepdad to my friend's son, who's also a professional baseball player. So I want him to have a great life. So I'm hoping Lenine Sosa gets paid at some point.
And our picks are Junior's going with Opie, Andrew Vaughn. I'm going to go with Gavin Bonds, Mr. Sheets. Jay is going with Lenine Sosa. Guys, we're at the part of the show where we're going to get some shout outs here. Justin, take it away.
First of all, I got to give the first and permanent shout out to Asia. Outstanding job you did at work today. You hammered out the orders per usual. I wish I was surprised at your brilliance, but hey, here we are once again here on the Blackout. Shout out to you, Asia. My second shout out is to Dominic Fletcher. You have quietly turned into one of my favorite players, not because of your statistical success, but because I like the way you carry yourself as a ball player. And there's some traits and tendencies that you take to the plate and in the field with you that will make this team better. You may not see it now, but you're an intricate part in the DNA, and how we're going to improve the Chicago White Sox. Thank you, Dominic Fletcher, for being on the team.
On that note, Junior, take it away.
I'm so confused right now.
I got him in fantasy, and he gave me a hit today. So
the Italian Stallion. Hey,
let's go. Let's
You got Fletcher?
The Italian Stallion. Dominic Fletcher. Thank you for being on. That's awesome. He's got 24 podcasts to pick from. I'm sure he's asked often to be on shows. I don't want to shout out to if I lose this week by 1 point because of the save, I will go. It was going to be bad. I'm going to be very, very upset because of today's move. That's thank you guys for listening and being here, and it's been a fun time. I'm very upset for the Moncada, but hey, you got to move on. Hopefully, I'm hoping for a swift recovery.
So wait, when you said if you lose by 1 point, you said I will go. Where you gonna go?
I was gonna say something bad. It's just I'm gonna be very upset. It's probably one of those moments where I need to like not be on social media. Because Caillou,
if we call, answer the fucking phone.
I'm just saying, Caillou. I don't. This is the thing, okay? When we talk, it's like an opinion, and anybody can have an opinion. When there is money involved, like if I put money in that game or there's fantasy baseball, and your decision might cost me a week. Because here's the thing, guys. How many chances is he really going to get to save games? I need every chance.
You're not going to call my manager Caillou, bro.
Yeah, I'm not going to be. And I don't like mixing the both, but I usually don't get mad about managers' decision making. If I lose by 1 point this week, I will be very upset.
Oh shit! I'm crying.
It'll be a great time to be in the group chat. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, for sure.
By the way,
if I lose by 1 point and he benches Andrew Vaughn this week, that would be a parlay.
Chris Getz sends him to AAA midweek.
Yeah, that would be every kid that comes up to bat for the rest of the week, and high school baseball is getting struck out.
Damn, you want some Joe West?
Yeah, I will be very upset. I'll be very standoffish. Like it would be very bad. Like that would not be a good week.
Wow.
All right, my shout outs. Okay, my shout out Soraya. Obviously, she's my one and only, and she is manning the house right now with these dogs, keeping them contained, keeping them quiet. That's what I need in this podcast. No echo or background noises.
What the fuck?
Also, I want to shout out Justin, Caleb, KG in the chat. You're watching. Nate and Junior, you all grabbed a W week 1 in fantasy.
First place.
Justin's in 5th in his division.
Way to just fucking rip my umbrella. You didn't even rain on the
guys,
you just took my umbrella.
Whoever's listening is like, yeah, Dominic Fletcher's on his roster. Why wouldn't he be in 5th place?
Yeah, whoever's listening, screw you.
Yeah, but okay, so Junior, he's in 1st in our division. I'm right behind him in 2nd. I'm a game and a half and from the point system, so I'm trying to make up ground. We'll see what happens at the end of week 2. We'll get into more fantasy talk next week. My last shout out is going to be by a man named Tommy Nee. Tommy, he was the husband of one of my mom's best friends, and he passed away yesterday.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a shocker to all of us. So we're just going to give him a moment of, prayers and positivity sent to my mom's one of my mom's best friends, Maria. I sent her because I just got, I got the news right when I got home. My dad called me and told me the news. So I sent her a text right before I got on the show. So we got to wish her all the best. It's tough times. She was one of those friends of my mom who went single a lot. Went single through a lot of stages of her like older adolescence, and I think I was like in junior high when she met Tommy, and then they started dating and got married, and it's one of those relationships, man. It's like I think it was like going into year 12 or so, but it was one of those marriages that were blissful to watch from the outside of it, and I was happy that she deserved every part of that marriage that she got, that she was waiting patiently for. And it just sucks that, you know, life is so short. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, shout out to you, Tommy. We will love you and miss you. But that's going to wrap up my shout outs for the night. Guys, we talked about, my goodness, Moncada going down, talked about Grifo's grounds. I think we were split on what is going to happen with Grifo, the remaining amount of the season that we have left of the 150 games.
It's a shame he's still here.
We wrapped up a lot of the 108 in the Tourney conversation. Guys, this was a great episode. Can't wait for what is to come with season 2 as we go. We got some guests lined up. I can't wait to get to next week. You have any wrapping thoughts here, guys?
Well, KG says he's going to kill himself if he loses to me. Well, guess what, pal? Bottoms up. Number 2, bright side, go screw yourself as well.
We'll talk about it in more episodes, but with the 20-year reunion coming up, the Red Sox just celebrated their last championship this past couple of days. And actually, I texted AJ and we're so lucky that we have not had any losses in that crew, meaning the whole roster's complete. Seeing Wakefield's family, the kids throwing out the first pitch, puts everything into perspective of it's been 20 years. Those things do happen. There is loss. So again, the White Sox coming into their 20-year anniversary, the goal, we would love for everybody to be there and you're not, mourning anybody. Because again, that sort of thing happened. So it was kind of really surreal seeing Wakefield's kids throwing the first pitch and being damn, all the teammates, everybody was you're kind of going to do that later in the year. And you're very fortunate that everybody, everyone's family is kind of intact. So, and again, it starts a conversation, who's coming, who's not coming, why are they not coming? So our goal is to everybody to be there and be able to have a good reunion in the 20-year anniversary.
And on that note, guys, thank you for tuning in and watching the Blackout.